Description of the legendary AO. Author, Nanjing. During the Mid-Autumn Festival, the weather is cool, the bright moonlight illuminates the village road, the children in Nam Tri village run everywhere, holding bamboo lanterns in their hands. Inside there are small, flickering candles, full of colors. Lanterns are made from bamboo and wind paper recovered with silk fabric, adorned with delicate drawings and embroidery with specific details such as peach branches, ghosty flowers, bamboo branches, calligraphy, and legends of Dai Viet country. Mid-Autumn Festival is also an opportunity for farmers to thank the dragon for bringing rain for a bountiful harvest. To express the sincerity of the people of Nam Tri village to Noyat Lao, on the village communal house yard, a feast of Mid-Autumn Festival is presented. Big Autumn. In the wet rice culture of ancient Vietnamese people, the moon has a great meaning, associated with crops and daily life. Autumn is the time when the weather is cool and the climate is the most pleasant of the year. On this day of the year, the moon is brightest and most beautiful, and farming is leisurely. At that time, everyone can leisurely enjoy the moon and mingle with heaven and earth. It is also an opportunity for dignitaries in the village to sit together and watch the moon and predict the harvest and fate of the nation. If the autumn moon is yellow, that year is a good year for silkworms and produce. If the moon is orange, it signals the country. Enter the year of prosperity. If ghosty the moon is green, there will be natural disasters and epidemics. While everyone was happily laughing, a scream rang out from the edge of a small lake in the middle of the village. A man ran crazy like a dog biting his ass. As he ran, he pointed down at the wooden house next to the lake in the middle of the village and shouted, "The Din and Vu families are fighting again, everyone." The happy atmosphere was interrupted, as if you felt like you were eating delicious rice but had a fish bone in your mouth. Everyone gathered and ran to the place to see more than 30 young men rushing at each other like wrestling buffalo, swinging their arms and legs wildly. Some people fell into the lake below, while those above were not much better. Faces, noses, teeth, and lips seemed to blend together. The wooden house above shook as if it was about to collapse into the lake, and screams echoed throughout the entire sky. An old man, who seemed to be a dignitary in the village, was sitting with the elders in the communal house enjoying the moon. He heard the commotion, forgot his shoes, ran barefoot, was out of breath and spoke loudly angrily. "What do you want now? Are you planning to cause chaos? Today is the Mid-Autumn Festival, don't you want everyone to rest, even for just a day? Do you want me to throw everyone into prison? Who is responsible here? Come out so we can see." Two men, their faces were bleeding, their clothes were shabby, they walked out together and bowed their heads, looking scared. A short and thick man pointed at the man standing next to him and said, "Yes, Captain of the Guard, did Din's family find trouble first?" The other guy was tall and thin, as tall as a pole, and shouted back, "What are you talking about, robbing and yelling at the same time? You guys intentionally cursed at us first, and still have to deny it?" That old elder, a Mandarin named Tong, a seven-faced guard named Trong Kien, walked up and said angrily, "The Din and Vu families, everyone in Nam Tri village, who doesn't know, it's always like that, if they don't see each other, it's okay, if they meet each other, they're like cats and dogs. Since I became an official here, I don't know how many times I have dealt with you guys, but it still keeps happening again. You want me to increase the punishment? Are your two families willing to accept it?" Ha ha. As soon as he finished speaking, Mr. Trong Kien suddenly seemed to have tuberculosis. He coughed a few times and then fell to the ground convulsing, breathing heavily as if he was about to stop breathing. It made the other two men turn pale with fear, tremble, and kneel down like chickens picking at grain. One person in the group of people who was watching quickly ran over and looked like he knew medical skills. He reached out with both hands to press the philtrum point, then took out a round pill like a black marble from his pocket and tried to pry open Trong Kien's mouth. Immediately, a strong hand reached out from behind his back, grabbed the doctor's hand, stopped and said, "Old doctor, please step aside. If you do so, you will cause more danger to the patient. He is suffering from coldine. If you give him cold wind pill, it will create more coldine, the disease will only go in the door. Please leave it to me." Having finished speaking, ask everyone to help the old mandarin near the big fire, help him sit up, pull out a wormwood leaf from his bag, roll it into a leaf, light it and burn it. Trace the back of Mr. Trong Kien's shirt along the acupuncture point on his back, use his thumb to press and release, then blow hot air from the wormwood leaf right into the acupuncture point. Laying Mr. Trong Kien down, he quickly took out 2 needles and pricked them into the big toe, immediately pouring out a stream of black blood. The 2 hands were clasped together, the 2 index fingers were out, the middle finger and ring finger were intertwined, forming a shape. One of the 9 path seals was pressed down on the top of Trong Kien's head, only to hear a sneeze and old Trong Kien's breathing seemed to calm down. The doctor from before looked back and saw that the stranger had an effective treatment, so he respectfully asked, "Dash, what a noble man, may I ask why you handle things like a god? If it weren't for this old brother to handle it, I would have committed a big crime. Because of my foolishness, saving people would end up harming people." The stranger had an elegant appearance, like a teenager, with delicate white skin. On his face was a bird-shaped mask that covered most of his face. It seemed like he didn't want people to recognize his identity, so he smiled and said, "Dash, there's nothing to hide from me, it's just a small matter, but I'll take the liberty of telling you a little bit. Old Trong Kien here was hit by the cold, the mid-autumn weather with the bright moon, and moon accumulated more negative energy than usual. Going barefoot again, so Yin comes from above, Yin from bottom up, people are already weak, so cold Yin accumulates with no way out, burning all the fire in the body, losing the balance of Yin and Yang, so we have to find Yang. To balance the energy, we use fire-breathing wormwood leaves to enter the Chan Den acupuncture point to get the fire, use a needle to extract the negative blood, then use Q2 seal to add light pressure to the top of the head, re-stimulating the fire monkey flow in the body. The body is warmed by the fire again, the balance of Yin and Yang is restored, then life is alive high. As soon as he said this, old Trong Kien's eyes gradually opened and he regained consciousness. Everyone saw that the situation was peaceful, so everyone went home and continued the fun. The 2 families Din and Vu also led each other and quickly left. After taking Mr. Trong Kien home, he picked up a cup of hot tea and took a sip. He turned to the young man and said, "Dash. What a lucky ghost, if it weren't for you kid, I would have gone with the wind to heaven today." The young man said, "Dash, yes, it's nothing, it's just a coincidence. By the way, let me ask how things are going today. Why have those 2 families been feuding for so long?" Old Trong Kien sat with his back against the chair, a cup of hot tea in his hand and said, "Dash, the story is like this, looking down from the top of Jiao Long Mountain. The Din and Vu families used to be very close, the 2 families lived in 2 opposite villages, separated by only a small stream called Nak Ku, the family name was Nak Ku. Din is on the left side of the stream, Vu's family is on the right side of the stream. Life passed in peace. The Din and Vu Jiu families were very wealthy. Their children and grandchildren passed their exams, some of them became mandarins in the capital, working as business was smooth sailing, so both of them prospered quickly, their wealth was countless. People living around here for hundreds of miles, no one knew about these two successful families, and took it as their own goal to strive for. But the discord that occurred caused them to see each other as enemies, and there was a reason. 3 years ago, suddenly the Vu family's business started to decline more and more, the harvest of the estate was poor, the children and grandchildren were constantly sick, and there were people who suddenly turned crazy while living a normal life. At first, the Vu family only thought that it was due to a year of drought and bad luck that caused it to happen like that. But the two families were only separated by a stream, and the villagers of the Vu family looked at the opposite side of the Din family and saw a world of difference. The Din family is getting richer and richer, doing business successfully, their children and grandchildren are studying for exams, some of them even passed the exam, asking why there is no suspicion that there is something wrong. The people of the Vu family scratched their heads, unable to find a reason. They invited teachers everywhere to worship continuously without success. Their business gradually disappeared into the hands of the Din family. One day, a source of information leaked from an alcoholic from the Din family who accidentally revealed it while drinking in the Vu village. The source of Nak Ku stream winds horizontally and vertically, flowing from the top of Jiao Long Mountain down to create a stream of fresh water, providing domestic water for both villages, bringing good vitality. At the beginning of the year, the family is unknown. The Din family listened to someone and went to the north to find a very famous feng shui master named Zhang who came to the village to see the terrain. The feng shui master surnamed Zhang said, "Water is strong, sun is weak, water is before and sun is behind, water is high and sun is low. If you want yin and yang to be balanced, you must move the grave closer to the mountain, receive more negative energy, don't worry about your family's descendants always being better than others. Endless fame and fortune, bright future." Then the Din family dug up the grave of their 9th-generation great-grandfather, collected the bones in a ceramic jar, and brought them up near Jiao Long Mountain where the feng shui master pointed the mountain to rebury the grave. Everything happened as expected. Turned the evil into sand, and the Vu village had to bear the murderous weapon caused by the Din family's intentional actions. After hearing the drunkard's semi-suspicious words, the Vu village wanted everything to be clarified, and also I pray for a feng shui master to go to the capital of Tanglong and go down to the village to see the situation clearly. I heard that this feng shui master is also a master who has been shown many times by the king to see the land and choose a place to place the grave. Building houses, temples and pagodas is very famous. After going around the village to look at it, I could only stand and look at the land, shaking my head and sighing, making the whole village of the Vu family burn like fire in their hearts. Checked it out for another day before saying, "This is a burial. The style of reflecting the palace and killing water means taking all the good luck and good things back to yourself, but the evil weapons are transferred to another place and you have to bear the burden. If not discovered early, the owner's descendants will rebel." Crazy, prenatal career gradually drifted away like water. The acupuncture point had absorbed all the good energy, so when the remaining vitality flowed down to the Vu family, you only had evil energy left. Therefore, in the Din family of that time recently, they have been continuously making money, but the Vu family has fallen into ruin. The entire Vu family wanted to ask the noble man if there was any way to solve the problem. He just said that currently in the village there is only one good acupuncture point, So Long, so it's just the town keeping a little bit of vitality for the village to survive, the rest is like before. I'm afraid it's impossible. Listen to the old man. If I say that, then there is no hope left. Give that feng shui master a little silver to thank him and send him back to the capital. Humans can swallow anything, but the only thing is Tai that they can't swallow. The whole village couldn't eat well and couldn't sleep well. They sat down to discuss if there was any other way. After a while of thinking, the whole village had only one way to cure poison, which was to find that northern feng shui master named Zhang. I hope to help the village overcome the situation of Counter Palace and Sat Tui to regain their fortune. The whole village gathered the remaining assets and sent people to the north to find people. That old feng shui surnamed Zhang, in the end, because he saw a large amount of gold, it was difficult to avoid greed and return to Wu's village. On a rainy night, with thunder and lightning on the opposite side of the river, the Wu family pulled together dozens of young men to the mountain, dug a deep hole, and the feng shui master stood on the edge of the hole and said, "Just dig down. When the boss tells you to stop, stop." A moment later, seeing red water suddenly pouring out of the deep hole, everyone panicked, and the old feng shui master stroked his beard and said loudly, "Good. Good, okay, you Gosta girls, bring the jar of bones here." An urn of ashes with a golden amulet stuck on it was placed in the grave and then covered with soil. So not long after, what happened to the village of the Wu family before, now the Din family on the other side is also facing the same thing. They are struggling, the whole village is in chaos like a running dog. Later, I found out that the Wu family did it on purpose, so from then on the two of them were like water and fire. If they didn't see each other, that's it. Whenever they met, they would get into fights, sometimes leading to casualties. Having said this, he sighed sadly, then looked at the young man and said, "It's just you and me. There's no need to cover your face, Duquin. Get me a bird-shaped mask, my face is so beautiful, why should I hide it, haha." The ghostly young man named Duquin raised his hand to take off the mask, revealing a delicate rosy face, bright eyes, dark eyebrows, and white skin. If viewed from a distance, many people mistake it for a beauty. He bowed his head, then smiled and said, "The old Mandarin praised me too much. I just covered my face, because I heard that recently there is a woman who specializes in stealing beauty. I'm afraid my legs and arms are weak and I'm afraid I won't be able to resist, and I'll lose my life in a minute. Boys are miserable, ka ka ka." The old Mandarin put his hand on Duquin's head and said, "You brat can only be soft-spoken. Who doesn't know that in addition to his medical skills, he is also a young man with profound knowledge of feng shui and occultism like you?" The name Lac Nan was given by the world for no reason. Duquin put his arm behind his head, looking embarrassed and said, "This old Mandarin praises you too much, you haven't done anything great for the world. Your name is something someone suddenly gave you. It's really an exaggeration, hee." Old Mandarin Trong Qian put his hand on Duquin's shoulder and said kindly, "I am really stuck in the matter of the Din and Wu families. Everything that has happened has now been transmitted to the high officials in the capital. I am preparing to go down to my village to investigate this matter. If I lose my position, I will also be burdened with the crime of not completing the task, which is unavoidable. Or boy, can you help me with this matter? I know your family is talented in feng shui. Has helped a lot of people. If you can help me with this, if Gosti needs me in the future, I will definitely help." After listening to old Trong Kien's words, Duk Huin knew it was an important matter if he didn't help. Fearing that things would gradually become more serious later, he stood up and confidently smiled and said, "So, what this old Mandarin said, remember to keep your word. Don't lose your promise if you're young, I'll miss you very much." The next morning, the weather was clear and convenient to start preparing for the new crop. People from both the Din and Vu families gathered in Nam Tri village according to the words of Guard Lieutenant Trong Kien. Standing in the middle of the village communal house, the old Mandarin spoke up. "Today I gathered the people of the two villages here to resolve the conflict between the two families Din and Vu. Through research, I know that everything comes from the two families Din and Vu. There are many hidden secrets. All about feng shui tombs. Now I invite here a man who is very knowledgeable about feng shui, whose name is Lac Nan, which everyone knows. Recently, he has helped many people change their tombs." As expected, when everyone heard the name Lac Nan, they all seemed very satisfied and reassured. The ghostly person wears a mask shaped like a stray bird and a divine beast. He comes here from nowhere, suddenly disappears and appears, always helping people in times of trouble. Sometimes he takes pulses to cure illnesses, sometimes he checks feng shui to build houses and temples. The ghost brought a lot of joy to the people of Nam Tri. I don't know what their name is, only know that he has outstanding feng shui medical skills, and a ghost mask shaped like a stray bird, so they named themselves Lac Nan. His physique is his physical appearance is very similar to that of a saint, worshipped in the village named Taeo Jia Tien. According to villagers' legends, Saint Taeo Jia Tien traveled everywhere, but often returned to settle in the southern mountains of Nam Tri village. It happened a few days ago. People in the villages in large and small villages around Jiao Long Peak, they heard a loud roar continuously happening, like the sound of a dragon. The moaning was like a wailing cry. People did not know what it was, they only knew the old saying. It is said that phoenix cries, dragon chants, that is the sound of the phoenix bird crying in the dragon wailing, which means preparing for a bad omen to happen. That night, rain, wind, thunder and lightning struck the top of the mountain. The earth and sky shook, trees fell, people saw from the foot of the mountain a Jiao Long. Jiao Long is also called Young Dragon by Annam people. Horns have not yet grown, the body is curvy like a snake, the neck is small, the scales on the back are not yet, just sprouting countless ivory white hairs, underneath there are 4 long beards. People say when Jiao Long appears, from the ground splitting a mountain and flying up will create a river. Jiao Long waved as if splitting the ground in two trying to fly up. The Nam Tri river was calm, but suddenly there were big waves and the water rose, thinking it would create a flood, engulfing Nam Tri village. At that moment, a white light on the mountain flashed down on a figure, flew to Jiao Long's head and sat down. 2 bright lights in his hands flew out to block Jiao Long's head and calmed him down. The divine beast seemed to be tied up, trying to struggle, crying out in sadness. That person was none other than Taeo Jia Tien. He spoke loudly as if Jiao Long could hear. "I've been waiting for you here for a long time. In 200 years, please transform into a dragon. Now is not the time. Turn back to the south and wait for the day to transform into Tan Dragon to help Dai Viet ha ha ha." The roar lasted until morning. When dawn had just broken out, Jiao Long was no longer seen. Everyone only saw Taeo Jia Tien sitting cross-legged meditating at the foot of the mountain, his eyes closed and his mouth still smiling, his robe on his body torn. The image of the Jiao Long was blue and purple, curled around his body. At noon, his image turned into mist and smoke, gradually disappearing. From that day on, people no longer saw Tao Jia Tian appear. On the mountain, they built a temple right in Jiao Long Town to worship him. Some people said he was the immortal of Vietnam, coming down to help. And Nam, after helping people do many things that go against God's will, revealed the heavenly plan, so he was summoned back to the fairy world. Some people said he went to travel around the mountains and water to help people. I don't know who is right or wrong. After that, there were many people claiming to be the successor of Tao Tien Sin, the god of magic, but all of them were cunning and defrauding other people's property. Until Lac Nan appeared, helping people without asking anything in return. Hey! Duc Huyen stepped out, one hand clasped behind his back, the other hand holding two fingers pointing towards the top of Jiao Long Mountain, and said, I see that the feng shui of Nak Ku stream has been completely destroyed. There is no longer any good vein to bury. At this rate, your two families have only one way to die. From the top of this mountain to return. In the southeast direction, there is a Chan Long acupuncture point. If the people of the two villages can get along as well as in the beginning, without comparing and calculating the previous debt, I will point out that Chan Long acupuncture point, so that the two families of the Din family, Wu revived his family's business even further than before. The two families sat down to discuss with each other, seeing that Lac Nan was a gentleman. Firstly, he did not care about money. Secondly, there was no other way, everything was at a dead end, so he accepted to listen. So Lac Nan helped them find the main Chan Long acupuncture point in the southeast on the Jiao Long mountain range, deducing the image of 5 Fu Kui Tin, Latin, forming the 5 stars Lin Chao. If the acupuncture point is connected, there will definitely be a rich man. Great nobles, their descendants will later hold high official positions and enjoy wealth and honor. If good energy forms the 5 elements and flows out, it will produce an emperor. Ancestors who live well will give birth to good descendants. That is the meaning of this vein. Then ask both of them to contribute. Together, they built a house on the main road here, worshipping the ancestors of both families, enjoying the same prosperity, thus forming one house. Lac Nan is a ghost with a bird mask. The man named Duc Huyen originally had a twin brother Duc Y. For some reason, when he was 3 years old, he suddenly disappeared, leaving him alone. From what my mother told me, I was taken away by strangers. His father was famous for being an expert in feng shui and was rumored to be a saint. He was also absent from home often, so absent that from childhood to adulthood, he only saw each other a few times, the most recent time being at his grandmother's funeral. Also more than 15 years ago. In his memory, there is an unforgettable incident, the image of his father with white hair tied in a high bun, with a 9-yang Dao light crown on his head, and between his 2 eyes is a bright white mystical eye. Has an extraordinary appearance, wearing a yellow robe, carrying a peach wooden sword on his back, holding a dried peach tree shaped like a lightning bolt in his hand, and on it is a white jade gourd. That day my father came home to mourn his paternal grandmother. Everyone in the village who met him showed great respect and called him Tao Jia Tian. Coming to his grandmother's body, he knelt down and hugged her, crying for half a day. Then he personally went to find the land, dug a grave on the sand dune in the middle of the river, set up a Dharma altar right in front of the grave. It was said to be Fadya Dharma. So what is Fadya? It is said that during the process of going down to the underworld after a person dies, the first ghost gate is called Kui Mon Quan, then you have to go through a very long and deep road called Hong Tuen Road. This road takes a long time to reach. At the end of the road there will be a small river called Vong Shuyan Ha. On the river there is a stone bridge called Nai Ha Bridge. On the opposite bank of the bridge is a mound called Vong Hung Dai. Next to it is a small communal house called Man Ba Communal House. There was a person named Man Ba who watched over and gave each passerby a bowl of her soup. After drinking Man Ba soup, people will forget everything that happened on earth. Judging according to the 3 lifetime sins, reincarnated to 6 realms of reincarnation, commensurate with the good and evil karma caused while alive, destroying earth is a magic that helps the newly deceased break the boundaries of hell and spirit. The soul flies straight to heaven. That day, the weather was drizzling and raining non-stop. People often say that when burying the dead, encountering a light rain is a great auspicious thing, and future descendants will be glorious. After placing grandmother's grave, cover it with soil. After finishing, he held the peachwood sword in his hand, took 2 golden talismans through the sword, jumped high into the air, slashed down on the grave in a circle around the grave. The light blinded his eyes. He shouted loudly, "Break! Land! Tang! Sky! Immeasurable heavenly venerable!" A deafening explosion rang out, only to see that when the light gradually disappeared, the rain suddenly stopped, the sky was blue again, from the tomb rose a yellow sphere hovering above the tomb, then suddenly immediately flew straight into the blue sky. After burying his grandfather, a few days later he passed away silently as usual. The only memento that remained with him was half a green jade pendant shaped like the yin and yang 8 trigrams worn around his neck, which he gave to him on his 5th birthday. Mrs. Ka is a famous medical practitioner and good at business. The Hong family's property as it is today was something she built with her own hands. The husband takes care of other people's affairs outside, rarely comes home, and sometimes thinks about it and feels sad, but having his son by his side calms him down somewhat. She is very thoughtful and loves her husband and children. Sometimes she only thinks that her wife goes out to help the world, mainly to create blessings for her children and grandchildren. Ta Ao Duong is a very famous medical store, specializing in dispensing medicine, checking pulses and examining and treating patients. Duk Huynh himself is the only child. Although he is not a rich man, he does not seem to be in need. Everything is what it is. The only thing I want is my own freedom, which I can never get. Mrs. Ka's management of Duk Huynh is very difficult. She is not allowed to leave the house. Everywhere she goes is closely supervised. Since childhood, I have been living in the medical environment of my family. In the morning, I open my eyes to see illness. At night I lie down and close my eyes to see medicine. Every day, in front of me, there are all kinds of herbs, with all colors and flavors to look at. Bored. Because of his hyperactive personality, he is constrained, so it is like living in a prison, even though there is no shortage of material things around him. One time, Duk Huynh ran away with a group of friends to play, but he kept playing and forgot to return home. Mrs. Ka, along with her servants, went looking for her child. She cried and searched everywhere. The whole time she walked, she did not know whether she was alive or dead. She was haunted by the story of having her child taken away by a stranger. Son scared her and did not want this incident to happen again. When she found Duk Huynh, she hugged her son and said with tears in her eyes, "I'm the only one left now. Your father doesn't know where he is any. The only comfort is you. If anything happens to you, I won't want to live anymore." Duk Huynh felt very regretful when he heard that. From then on, he rarely went out and lived a peaceful life. But people have a saying that human nature is not as good as God's nature. Everything in heaven depends on people. In life, no one knows what the future holds, but sometimes sudden sayings make people think. One day, there was an old blind fortune teller who came to see a doctor at Taeo Duong. After treating the old man, he saw that he seemed poor, not enough food and not enough clothes to wear. Seeing that, Duc Huyen did not take any money, and after finishing his work, he even gave him a few more ingredients to nourish his body. The old blind fortune teller said, "From then on, even though I'm poor, I don't want to owe anyone anything. If you have given me free medical treatment and given me a few steps of tonic medicine, please allow me to know your birth date, so I can give you a hexagram to read your destiny." After hearing this, Duc Huyen chuckled inwardly. This blind old man probably wants to get a medical checkup and wants to make more money. If he can read accurately, why doesn't he see for himself, instead of working in this miserable profession of fortune-telling? I don't believe it. As if understanding what Duc Huyen meant, the old man immediately said, "Please don't misunderstand what I mean. Do you know why my eyes are blind? Because one time I accidentally passed by a mountain where there were bandits, specializing in killing people and robbing people. Without ghosts, they caught me. They saw that I had nothing on my body and knew that I was a fortune teller, a mountain elder. The robbers wanted me to tell his fortune. They put a knife to his neck and threatened me, forcing him to read a hexagram to find a way to do business. The ghost brought little benefit to them, but avoided the pursuit of the mandarins. Because I was forced, afraid of ghosts killing me, I was confused and revealed the secret, so I was punished by heaven, and after a short time my eyes gradually went blind." Hearing strange things from that old blind physiognomist, Duc Huyen smiled slightly, deliberately wanting to tease him, so he waved his hand and asked the servant to whisper in his ear, found a servant who specialized in cooking in the house, and read, "Give him the date of birth of this person's 8 characters for him to guess." After being told the 8 characters, the blind man immediately said, "Please don't make fun of me anymore. This 8-character date of birth is messy, out of order. If anyone has this 8-character, they will only work for others all their lives. Their faces will be stained with wood smoke all their lives. I'm very happy to have food to eat. It's not you, haha." Hearing this, Duc Huyen admired and praised him, showed his 8 characters to the blind man, calculated them mentally, pressed his knuckles before slowly saying, "The destiny is different from other people. Born as a noble person, with the life of Long Tien protecting him, later one becomes a noble person. 2 is a tomb robber. 2 is gentle, uneducated, unwise. If you are a virtuous person, if you do not study well, you will do dishonest work." After reading, the blind old man bowed his head in gratitude, turned around and walked slowly. Duc Huyen sat thinking for half a day, not knowing what the blind fortune teller meant. He cursed silently, "Although 2 is gentle and uneducated, I don't know. Then why are you so tall and inhuman, and you even do the unscrupulous thing of robbing graves? It's so absurd. Damn it, my life is entwined with these herbs like a shadow. I don't know when will I be able to stop. No matter what, I won't have to become a thief." It's true that fortune-telling about ghosts and sweeping the house out of trash is like that. Tonight, the weather became strange. It was a hot summer, but suddenly there was an unusual rain falling on the porch. It was supposed that the cool weather would help you sleep better, but Duc Huyen tossed and turned. But he couldn't sleep. While he was closing his eyes and trying to sleep, suddenly a gust of wind blew through the door frame, causing a wind chime made of bamboo to make a small sound, causing Duk Huynh to open his eyes and reflexively see. There was a shadow of someone passing by, the light from the lightning still imprinted on the wall, suddenly thinking it could be a thief. Lately in the village, there are often robbers, watching in the quiet of night. Walls, digging into walls to steal property. If I catch this time, I will let you know. Duk Huynh sat up and gently looked through the narrow door, seeing a strange figure. It didn't look like a person. If it was a person, it must have been walking on two legs. The body here is that of a human, elongated like an animal. It crawls low to the ground, then curves and crawls quickly into the altar room, located in the middle of the house. Previously, Duk Huynh did not believe in ghost love stories, so he only thought that at night he would be dizzy, so he quickly grabbed the bamboo pole next to the wall as a weapon, in case he encountered that strange animal. There was also personal room. Stepping outside, he leaned close to the door wall and leaned his head to look inside. It was dark in the altar room with only two small hanging lamps. The light was not bright, just a few lightning flashes across the sky was enough for a few seconds. Seeing in front of his eyes, an animal that he never thought existed in the world, Duk Huynh seemed dumbfounded, his mouth stiffened, he couldn't say a word, his hands and feet twisted and he dropped the bamboo stick in his hand to the floor. Hear the sound, "Ak." On the giant pillar, in the middle of the high altar is an animal with a dragon's head, for long whiskers, a snake's body, its entire body covered in iridescent five-colored gosto fur, claws and claws as sharp as blades, listening to the noise below it spins. Looking down, his eyes glowed with a huge green light. He looked right at Duk Huynh, bared his sharp teeth and rushed down. Duk Huynh only had time to scream, then fell unconscious. In the bright light, a person appeared walking closer. It turned out to be his father. He looked straight at Duk Huynh and said, "My child, it's me, don't be afraid. Today you have truly grown into a person, and it is time for me to tell you the truth. I originally traveled the world, it was God's will not to return home. Before, I went to help people everywhere but unfortunately revealed many secrets. I myself have to bear the burden of disaster. I don't want to involve my family, so I don't want to bring disaster to my family. Anyone by my side will not have a good ending. That's why my heart is in pain. I had to leave my family and take the joy of the world as my own joy. The small land of Vietnam has been arduous for thousands of years, with internal and external enemies never ending, and haunted by ghostly forces watching day and night. It is also because our nation's roots are the children of the dragon and the descendants of the fairy, the cradle of origin. The source of humanity in Southeast Asia, that is why the ideal place where Long Tien resides forever, continuously creating layers of prosperity. In the north is Tan Long, in the south there is Q Long. Now I have returned to the fairyland, the rest depends on you. Please act on my behalf to save people. Always remember my teachings, go to the north along the coast of Nam Tri and there will be people to help. My family, even though they are shared and shared flesh, determined not to let the ghost cruise rage. Duk Huynh's body felt as hot as if it were on fire, then suddenly a familiar voice gently said, "Wow, my son is awake already. Why are you going to the front door? From the street to lie down, wind and rain." So lying there, delirious, talking haphazardly, ghosty, but only then did Huynh's dog bark loudly, so everyone found out. "Well, lie down and rest, Mom will cook some red bean porridge for you to eat." After Mrs. Ka finished speaking, she stood up and went to the back of the house. Duk Huynh lay alone thinking about everything that had happened. This is such a strange dream. There's also that terrifying animal, I don't know what kind it is. I've never seen it exist in this world. If it was real, I probably wouldn't be alive. The barking of the dog Huinda, looking at Du Quinn, he kept growling and barking continuously, interrupting Du Quinn's train of thought. What's wrong with this dog today? Usually it's very gentle and keeps following Du Quinn all day. Feeling bored, today I suddenly started barking like I was having a seizure. I raised my hand to my body, because I felt the heat running from my waist to my neck, as if something was crawling around my body, frightened. Huin quickly took off her shirt. A horrifying thing happened. On her body was a picture of a purple-blue animal. That's right, the animal I saw last night on Tu Duong. It was it, body like a snake, head of a dragon. Now it turned out that a tattoo seemed to be winding on the body, running around inside. The fire almost burned the whole body. If the fire did not cool down immediately, the body would probably burn to ashes. Du Quinn clenched his fists and tried to run outside to where there was water, jumped into the small lotus pond in front of the yard, tried to dive into the water. The more I watered it, the hotter it became. The heat seemed to burn my whole intestines. I screamed loudly and then lost consciousness. Again. For more than a week now, Du Quinn has been lying in a coma, only sipping a few drops of porridge to hold on. Mrs. Ka used all kinds of medical techniques and rare herbs that she had in hand to save Du Quinn's life, but nothing happened. Good development, sadness and heartache. Ghosty means that suddenly an old man came from nowhere. One night he knocked on the door of Taeo Duong, telling the servant that he wanted to see Mrs. Ka to discuss the matter of Du Quinn's son. The servant came in to inform Mrs. Ka that she was in a hurry. Rushed out to meet that stranger. Glancing at the strange appearance, the figure is tall, disabled with one arm, the head is wearing a straw hat that covers the entire face, the eyes only have one. Strangely enough, that eye is transparent and yellow. Looking at despite being a strange person, his voice was deep and warm. He clasped his hands and said to Mrs. Ka, "I just heard that your life is in danger, your body is on fire, burning continuously. I'm afraid your internal organs are very weak now. If you don't treat them promptly, you won't be able to last more than 3 more days. My medical skills are not as good as Mrs. Ka, but I hope that I have a little bit of humble knowledge and can help save you. Sickness bows to all 4 directions, life is like a curtain hanging on a bell. Du Quinn is now barely breathing. Although Mrs. Ka, despite her excellent medical skills, has saved many people from dangerous diseases, she cannot save her child. Her mother's heart aches. Who can understand? During the day, he cures him. At night he only knows how to bow to the Buddha, Avalokiteshvara, for protection. Now seeing this person come as if in an emergency, meeting a benefactor, and hearing this person correctly state Du Quinn's condition, I have a lot of hope. Helping Du Quinn sit up, he took out a dark blue talisman from his hand and drew a few words on it. The old mutant used force to stick 2 talismans on his back. The image of Jiao Long on his body lit up and rolled. The circle clung to Du Quinn's body in front of his chest, forming a tattoo. Placing a cold hand, an invisible stream of spiritual energy enveloped Du Quinn's body. The corner of the old mutant's mouth poured out blue smoke. Placing Du Quinn lay down, he staggered as if he had lost all vitality, as if he was about to collapse, still forced himself to walk and said to Mrs. Ka, "Everything is fine now, just need to rest and everything will be normal. I'm going to go pay my respects to the lady." He walked step by step to the outside. Seeing this, Mrs. Ka ran back and clasped her hands and said, "I thank you for saving my disciple. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to save my life. Please accept my bow." Seeing that your health is very weak now, please stay here and rest, so that I can thank you for saving my life." Having finished speaking, he knelt down and bowed his head 3 times. Seeing that the old man did not care, he walked out without saying a word. Mrs. Ka stood and looked at his appearance, suddenly thinking that she had met this person somewhere. Somehow, it looks very familiar. More than a week has passed. Duk Huin's health has gradually recovered. Every time he looks at Zhao Long's appearance, the feeling of insecurity comes back. The image of Zhao Long is deeply engraved on the left chest, and from time to time it rolls like a stream of fire energy, running throughout the body. Listening to my mother tell me about that strange one-eyed old guest, he was a man who had received a favor and had to repay it, remembering his appearance in his heart, hoping to meet him one day to thank him for saving his life. While dreaming, Duk Huin often saw his father coming in and out of Tu Duong. He stood in front of the door, looked up at the ceiling, then turned and walked away. Once in a dream, it is considered normal, but 3, it's impossible not to think about the 4 times the dream happened again. Duk Huin came to the Tu Duong throne, looking at the roof. There was nothing strange. It was also tied with ironwood and had a yin-yang tiled roof like always. The only difference was that in the past when his father was at home he often opened the door. When he left, it was usually closed. Only when the big day of worship would come would it be opened, and for a long time no one paid attention to it. Duk Huin also heard his mother say no to coming here. She did not want her son to follow his father's footsteps and study religion. At first, because of love, he did not blame Hong Chi, but then he just left and went to work. She raised her children alone, so she felt resentful and did not want anyone to mention feng shui techniques. The servants and apprentices in Taeo Duong understood this rule absolutely. In the family, who was unlucky? If you open your mouth in front of her, the lightest thing is a curse, the worst thing is a dismissal. So then no one cares about this anymore. As always, at this time, his parents had gone out to Taeo Duong to take care of work, so Duk Huin silently opened the door and entered Tu Duong, looking at the tureen hanging on the wall with a yellow cloth embroidered in red letters, Tian Dao Teacher Jia. Vo Ka, help me in vain, away from crazy delusions. Vo Tran, help me to be free from greatness, to stay away from the idea of superiority and defeat, of high and low. Vo Dat, help me to be hands-free, to be far away from the idea of having, not having, remaining, losing. No attachment, help us to be free from obstacles and stay away from negative thoughts. After reading it, Duk Huin knew that this was Lai Vo Vai's psalm, meaning that there are 4 emptinesses in life: fighting, obtaining, accepting, and seeking. While thinking about the logic above, his arms suddenly trembled. He could no longer control it. Zhao Long's shape seemed to change. Suddenly he raised his arm on the pillar in front of him and pointed a line. Light saw on it a small box glowing in the dark falling to the ground. Duk Huin quickly ran back to pick up and open the box to look, and saw that there were a few books in there that were too old. The pages were yellow, and if you touched them too hard, they would turn into powder. The books are numbered from 1 to 7. I Ching, 3 Fates, Heavenly Marrow, Jade Illumination of Truth, Dong Moon Kai. Dragon Sutra, Ton Nam Fu. Below is a copper-colored track long, a tool placed on the ground to see the direction of dragon veins. Duk Huin sat looking at the books, gently flipping through each page in bewilderment, as if there was the strong attraction kept my eyes glued to the book and I couldn't stop reading. I don't know how long I sat and contemplated the time I had passed. Only when I saw the sky had already dawned and the sound of the rooster crowing did I stand up. Not tired at all, feeling very refreshed, looking up at the ancestral altar with a big smile, Father, it's Father, why didn't you tell me sooner, so that I could read medical books and acupuncture books all day until my eyes were blurry and I was bored to death. Now is what I need. Why is Duc Huyen so happy? There are three great religions in the world, Tic, Confucianism, and Taoism. Tao Tic is just practicing and hoping that after death, we will return to the land of ecstasy. How many people know where we will go after death? Confucianism is heavy on ideology, not on humanity, rights, intellect, fighting for status in life, tiring the mind. Only Taoism is traveling through the mountains and water, helping a little for life, living a leisurely and comfortable life, enjoying tea in the morning and watching the moon in the evening. There is nothing better than that. So it is very true to Duc Huyen's dream for a long time. People often say, living in this world is a ghost of a human being. What should we do to be worthy of being a man of wisdom, holding our heads in the sky, feet on the ground, living to leave a good reputation for the world? Ghosty after the waterfall, do not leave a lonely grave lonely. The world sees it as nothing more or less than a lump of dirt. While busy, Duc Huyen Bong heard a few sound and looked back to see that pile of books burning into a blue fire, dissolving into smoke, leaving only the dragon, shining bright yellow. I don't know if it's due to genetics from his brave father or not. I only know that Duc Huyen himself is very smart, a true bookworm, and has loved reading since he was young. He just needs someone to give him a book. Reading voraciously, reading to the point of forgetting to eat or drink, understanding extremely quickly, thick books that ordinary people can read in a month, but for this kid, it's only a day. Mrs. Ka, from a young age, let Duc Huyen read medical books. Things that for her took many years to comprehend, but for her son, at the age of 9, he already understood most of the difficult techniques in the medical field, including plants, flowers, and herbs. There are more than 1,000 types of rare pharmaceuticals as clear as the palm of your hand. Knowing this in Duc Huyen, she was very proud. Thinking that Ghosty would later have someone to succeed in the medical profession that her ancestors had passed down, her heart was very happy. The dog Huenda ran next to him again. This time he didn't bark anymore, but instead curled up next to Duc Huyen's feet. Why is it called Huenda dog? In the history books of the precious animals of Annam, among the dog species, the Huenda dog is a very precious type. This dog is compared to the unicorn, one of the 4 types of magical beasts, or also known as Hao Kuyan. Shuyan, which is a dog with 2 colors on the body, on the spine a line of hair as long as a horse's mane running from head to toe, different from regular dogs with 4 claws, and Huenda has 5 claws, climbs walls, digs. The wall was extremely fast, the deep barking echoed far away. So it is often given as a gift to kings. Listening to legends has the ability to eliminate evil spirits. I remember the time I met Huenda. It was raining very heavily. On the way to treat a neighboring villager, I passed by an ancient temple that was in ruins, its old tiled roof buckling against the rain. The wall tilted as if it was about to collapse. Duc Huyen temporarily took shelter from the rain outside when he heard the groaning and growling sound of an animal. Deep inside the temple, the servant following him was too scared to step forward, but Duc Huyen still kept walking inside to see what was happening clearly. Love. In the past, this abandoned pagoda was often called Ta Kuyan Pagoda by the people in the village, a dog pagoda. Legend has it that there was Kuyan Tan. Kuyan Tan means a dog that can talk. Usually it is normal for dogs to be smart enough to hear human voices. And a talking dog is a strange thing, more accurately a ghost. The incident happened many years ago. This place was a wild area. There was a small temple located in the middle of the Vu Nin cliff. An old monk who came here from nowhere built it for him. I'm a small temple alone, practicing diligently day and night. Inside this temple, there is only an old monk living alone, with Buddha statues made of fragrant wood. On a rainy and windy night, he suddenly heard a dog whining outside the gate. The old monk stepped out and saw a white dog with scabies all over his body. He stood trembling and was hit by the wet rain, causing pain. There was no shelter around, so he ran to this place. Seeing this, the monk felt compassion and took the dog in to be treated for treatment. After a while, the dog recovered. Not long after that, he did not know why. For some reason, dogs from everywhere flocked to the temple in increasing numbers. Their illness was no different from that of the white dog before. The smelly mange made them want to vomit. Originally, life at this time was very difficult. During times of war and chaos, there was often rice and cinnamon. Having rice to eat was a joy, let alone a meal with a piece of meat to eat. It was a life like a fairy. Dogs are also among the delicious meat that many people crave. Whoever has a dog in their house is better guarded than gold or silver. Not to mention, why do so many dogs come to the temple? Rotten, with yellowish water, the villagers considered this a disease, so they were chased everywhere, stoned to death wherever they found it. Dogs are naturally very intelligent and know who is good for them to come to. The temple is now bustling, not with visitors making offerings, but with the sound of dogs barking and howling all day. Every day the old monk chanted sutras. The dogs also lay in line listening to the sutras. The monk was vegetarian, so they also had a pure meal. The monk and the dog leaned on each other and lived happily together. An ancient rule that few people understand: in Daikyu, it is said, dog 8 years, chicken 6 years. This means that animals that live next to people for many years, hear people's voices every day, and see their welcoming gestures. The owner's idea is that at some point it will become a goblin. That's why it's said to not raise dogs for 8 years, chickens for 6 years, that's it. One moonlit night, the teacher was sleeping and suddenly heard a strange sound coming from himself. Temple, as if many people were discussing something. It was very late, no Buddhist would go to the temple at this time. The monk's room was right next to the main hall. Looking through the crack in the door, the light from the main hall clearly illuminated a group of people huddled together discussing something. Rubbing his eyes and looking closer, the monk's arms and legs seemed to have fallen off. His whole body was cold. His mouth filled with words. He silently read in his heart, Amitabha Buddha, Amitabha Buddha. In the main hall, there was not a group of people but a dog, not a human being. He was a monk who believed in Buddhism. No matter how diligent they were, they could not avoid being frightened by that strange incident. They sat around. In the middle was the white dog, the leader of the pack, who spoke. Everyone, remember what I told you, this time we will inevitably perish. The only way is to die with them. Howl. Remember what I told you to do. One is to repay the favor, the other is to be reincarnated as a human soon. Howl. After saying that, howling each time, the surrounding dogs nodded their ghostly heads as if agreeing with the leader of the pack. The monk gently lay down, chanting Buddhist Dharma continuously, praying for the Gasta sky to be bright. The next morning, he walked away. When I went out to the yard, I saw them, like other normal dogs. I lay down, sat down, saw the old monk, and they ran back wagging their tails in joy. There was a loud uproar outside. A group of more than 100 generals came from somewhere, filling the temple yard. It turned out that this was the defeated army of La Kai, the general of Che Bong Na, Chan Ton country, while fighting with Ho Kui Lai fled here, plundering wherever he went. While hungry, thirsty, and injured, he saw the small pagoda and immediately pulled his troops in. Since he followed Buddha, he did not distinguish between enemy or us, everything was theirs. Born suffering in this world, the old monk gave food, water, and medicine to the soldiers so they could eat and rest. In the temple, there was originally plain rice and white soup, so there was no good food. When they saw dogs in the temple a lot, they thought of boiled, stir-fried, grilled, and fragrant dishes, making them drool and wet their clothes. Even though the monk advised them, "The donors here can eat whatever they want, I will serve them, don't kill or harm animals, it will add bad karma and cause and effect." But they didn't listen, laughed and sang. Buddhist monks forced them to be vegetarians. Dog meat can be eaten, civet meat is not, haha. The old monk was tied to a pillar in front of the temple. They forced each dog to peel its skin and cut its meat in front of the monk, eating and drinking as if it had been hungry for many years. After eating, he got angry and slashed the poor monk to death. When the incident happened, the heavens were wailing and crying. The defeated soldiers, after eating, spread out all over the temple and slept, after many days of running away. At midnight, a ghost suddenly appeared. In the quiet silence of the night, suddenly heard the sound of wailing and crying. Throughout the temple, in the twilight darkness, the crying became louder and louder. One of the soldiers who was lying down jumped up, puckered his mouth like a dog, and howled for a long time, scaring the whole crowd. Then 2, 3, 4, 10 people looked like they were infected with a disease. Their arms and legs grew hair, their mouths had long fangs on both sides, then ran around like crazy, biting everyone they met. In a short time, the whole group of soldiers, more than 100 of them, died without a complete corpse. Blood was everywhere in the temple, heads in one place, bodies in another, limbs severed. The foul smell of blood spread hundreds of miles away. Since then it has been deserted and no one has come. Duc Huyen has never been afraid of strange things, so he didn't worry about anything, lifted his shirt and walked alone into the temple. Near the large hole was the body of a large dog lying above. Below the large hole, as deep as a human body, there was a small dog about the size of a fist, standing close to the wall, with a body covered in injuries from poisonous snake bites. Seeing the stranger, it growled, its eyes glowing red like fire. Surrounded by the corpses of 2 large snakes with dog bites and a group of small dogs also lying dead. Seeing the pitiful scene, Duc Huyen suspected that the mother dog had gone to look for food, leaving her small cubs in the hole. When she returned to take care of her cubs, 2 snakes bit her to death. The snake crawled into the deep hole and ate the small dogs. But in the end, meeting the resistance of that small dog, he died, leaving only the little Huenda. Duc Huyen used his medical skills to save it from death by venom, then ghosted it home to raise it. Taeo Jia Tien Temple was built by the people of Nam Tri village. All year round the incense smoke never stops. On the horizontal panel on the wall, with a yellow background and red letters, it is written, "Describe the most feng shui pond in the world. The balance of luck and happiness is not wrong. The holy eye looks through 3 meters of land. God's hands rotate the 4 directions of heaven. Long Ho's foot slips through the heel. The mouth called buffalo goat to respond. Who wants to pray for it? Few people can do geography like you." Late at night, there was a motionless figure standing and looking at the terracotta statue, carved in the majestic sitting position of Taeo Jia Tien, wearing a yellow robe. the statue's eyes looking down compassionately, as if always watching. With his eyes following the people of all directions, he took action to save the country and the people. An old man with a tall figure, his arm was missing, took off his rotten straw hat, his one-eyed eye shone with yellow light. Long silver-white beard, a smile on his lips, pulled out a small bottle of blue enamel wine in his hand, walked to the altar, spread the wine in an arc shape in front of the statue, then held the bottle up to his mouth. Took a small sip, his voice lowered. "Old brother, I'm coming to drink with you again today. I don't think I can live many more days. I'll try to use the remaining strength to make the will of the imperial city, which my wise brother entrusted to me. After finishing my work, I will follow the wind and clouds to leave this world. The things I have done, surely hell is a place I cannot escape, unlike me here riding a crane to return to the ferry, people remember. It is truly shame for my life as a human being. An old man like me can't live better than death. I don't dare let others know my identity. I live quietly day by day, hoping to do something for the people of Annam to clear my conscience. Gentle. Even coming to visit you, just waiting until late at night to come, it's really useless. As for everyone living in this world, happiness and misfortune will be safe, or misfortune will follow. It is determined by fate. It is not possible to get it just by wishing." That old man's real name is Chao Bian, an ancient envoy of Annam, now old and disabled. Life is worse than death, no relatives, unable to return to his ancestral homeland. Even the name of his biological father and mother had to be given up and changed to a fake name of Chao Bin to live day by day in a fishing village, catching fish every day in exchange for rice. Recalling the heroic years of his ancestors, the Chao family, he couldn't help but feel sad. The Chao family had an illustrious reputation. 3 generations served the Tang court, under one person, over 10,000 families. No one was without fear. The Chao family is famous. His grandfather was the famous General Chao Sung Van, who fought from the east to conquer the north, suppressing Lu Tich's uprising and helping the Tang dynasty pacify the world. His father, Chao Thuamin, was also a war general, accomplished many glorious victories, and was awarded the title of then Sach Quan by King Duong. Although Chao's family name was not called king, he still dominated a realm. It is not without reason that the Chao family is respected by everyone. Its reputation is unfailing. The ancients often said, if jade is not brave, it will not become spirit. If people are not educated, they will not be wise, or heroes are trained through hardship. The greater the hardships, the higher the achievements. The Chao family has secrets that hardly anyone knows to forge a person into a braver hero than ordinary people. On the Chao family's street, the ancestral altar has a statue. The large golden painted wooden diaphragm is carved with 2 winding dragons, and 3 black words Vo Bat Tan are engraved on it. So what is that indestructible? Indifference means being insensitive, heartless, and not caring about the life or death of others. No is indifferent, inhumane. Unfortunately, the Chao family is not a place for the disabled. Anyone who no longer has something for the family needs to be eliminated. Don't be a burden to the family, no matter how successful they were before or not when they get old. If it is of little benefit to descendants, it must be eliminated. So let's rule it out and talk about it later. Let's talk about Chao Bian for now. When Chao Bian was born, he was a sick child with clumsy hands and feet, a gentle personality, and only loved reading books, especially poetry and Confucianism. Even though he lived in an environment of war and swords, his father was a brave general. All year round in the Chow family, he only heard the sounds of weapons clashing against each other, and the screams that periodically created the courage of soldiers practicing martial arts day and night. Yet that young man Chow didn't care. He was only passionate about poetry, drinking tea with the civil servants in the court in the morning and discussing philosophy in the afternoon. Holding a book was fine, but holding a sword was not enough to kill chickens. His father Chow Thua Min was a very strict man, strict to the point of brutality. All his life he only knew about war and swords, took joy in the sound of war drums, and lived with the majesty of a great man. For him, in favor of martial generals, for a long time, I have had a bias in my heart against the Van Mandarins in the court, and I have no heart when the war generals, army and horse, have to use their blood and lives to protect the country. This writing is just a way to win a bowl of gold. Many times, I just use my mouth to take the credit for myself. I just hope that one day, there will be an opportunity to chop these people who live on saliva into hundreds of pieces. Calm down the anger in my heart. So when I saw my son singing poetry all day, rich in literature with the literati, being as effeminate as a child, he seemed very dissatisfied. Many times I advised him to forbid him, but knew couldn't do it. I also couldn't do it. Chow Bien still secretly went out to hang out with literary and Confucian people. He hated what God gave him, so Chow Thua Min held a growing hatred in his heart. My heart was filled with sadness. I had so many hopes for my son, hoping that he would become a brave general in the future, show off his manly bravery, carry a sword and rule the world, and take on his father's responsibilities for generations. Left, now hope for him seems very hopeful. One day Chow Thua Min said to Chow Bien, "My child, I want you to follow me into the forest to hunt. Remember, don't follow anything, just follow a grain of rice and that's enough." Knowing that his father was a man of words, not two, he obediently followed. At 9 o'clock, he set out to follow his father into the forest. This time he went hunting. He noticed his father very strangely. Chow Thua Min does not carry weapons with him. When hunting, he at least has a bow and arrow, spear, and hunting net. Here, he only carries a small knife. In the canvas bag he carries with him is just a brick. Burnt dark red, on it were painted strange shapes made of pale yellow cinnabar, a portion of white rice in a paper bag and a little water. Chow Bien thought maybe his father had some kind of magic, which he didn't know. Having so many thoughts in their hearts but not daring to ask, the father and son got on their horses and went into the forest. Thinking absent-mindedly, Chow Bien did not know that he was preparing to face a truth that the Chow family had been doing for more than 200 years, but no one outside knew. The ancient said, human nature is originally good. Since birth, people are inherently gentle and pure. Just like the flow of life takes people into the crossroads of life, evil and good are difficult to distinguish. It's just that this life is like a gamble. Sometimes people don't have the right to choose right or wrong. Now Chow Bien is the same. He is facing that crossroads without a choice for himself, sitting on horseback looking at the desolate mountain scenery. His soul is soaring. The poet's soul in him has emerged. Exported into poetry. Dreaming of deserted mountains, wood and you. As the Tathagata walks, the wind bends around. Humanity is lost, heaven and earth are treasured. The mind is not troubled, the land is heavenly. Seeing the front is a deep Valley mountain, covered with clouds. Beyond 100 meters the road cannot be clearly seen. Both sides of the high cliff are covered with clouds and clouds. It truly makes people feel like they are stepping into a dark place. Government, with a young boy, a dreamy poet's soul, Chow Boy was naive and did not know the danger that was waiting for him ahead. Chow Thua Min stopped his horse and tied the horse's rope to a dry tree next to the rock. Taking Chow Bian's hand, he quickly walked inside. Now, after getting used to the unreal environment, he saw this place more clearly. On the cliff, there were 3 large words carved into Chow Quan's tomb deep into the cliff, covered with moss. It seems like that inscription has existed here for hundreds of years. Water dripped from the cliffs down to the damp ground. The sound of the wind whistling through Yukok sounded like the cries of souls lost in the mist. His hand tightly grasped his father's hand and stepped back, frightened when he saw countless thick tubular graves in front, different in shape from usual graves. Normally, in front of the grave, people often place a tombstone with the name, title, date of birth, month, and death written on it, but these strange graves do not have a tombstone at all, but are replaced by an empty space, deep into the grave. Inside each grave, there is a small cave deep down below. There are dark red bricks arranged to form a wall to cover the grave. Some are still unfinished and have not been completely filled. In here the graves are divided into 3 clear areas. The first area is written Lao Thak, the second is written Trung Thak, the third is written Tu Thak. Somewhere you can still hear the sounds of wailing and sobbing in the graves from time to time, hearing a faint echo. The sound echoed in the distance, making Chow Bian tremble. Before he could think any further, Chow Thua Min carried him under his armpit and dragged him gently to the Lao Thak area, made him kneel down in front of a stone slab with Chow Jia Chi's tomb written on it, and then pulled out a portion of white rice from his bag. Ghost followed, went to the grave and dropped it into the hole. Then Chow Thua Min said, "Father, please eat." Having finished speaking, he took the ghostly red brick and placed it on the remaining space on the tomb wall. He counted about 100 bricks. Before he could understand what was going on, his father used his hand to push him down into the hole in the grave. This hole is more than 10 meters deep, pitch black. The light above is not enough to illuminate the bottom. His body is sore, scratched and bleeding. He hears Chow Thua Min's voice from above. "Little child, I have warned you many times, but you deliberately disobey me. Everyone in my family has always been brave and strong. There is no place for those types of incompetent and useless people. I created them. Son, now I have destroyed it myself. It seems that my heart is not happy at all. If you have to blame, only blame yourself for being incompetent and formless. Don't blame me. This Chow Quan is for the disabled. Now every day, someone will give your family some food until you die." The sound of horses neighing, then slowly fading away. He knew that his father had gone home, leaving him in this deep grave to die. Extremely panicked, he shouted, "Father! Father, oh! Save me, how could you do that to my child? Father! Save me!" His tears fell like rain, but there was no response from his father. He could only hear the silent space, only the chilling sound of the wind. People often say, a poisonous tiger can't eat its own flesh, meaning that a ferocious tiger won't eat its young. Chow Thua Min, because he saw Chow Bian as a weak person, later did not do anything useful for the family, so he became a member of the Tan people. In the horizontal panel on the Chow family's ancestral hall, it is clearly stated that Tan, that is, a person who is no longer available for the family, must be brought to this Yukok to perform the Chow Quan tomb ritual. In fact, this Chow Quan tomb originally originated in ancient times in Yunnan, Hebei, and Shaanxi, and has been transformed by the Chow family for many generations, becoming even more cruel. Legend has it that you must find a place with feng shui called Lai Long Ku Mak. The acupuncture point is hidden on the cliff. The dragon energy changes when passing through the narrow ravine. The water energy on both sides of the wall will retain the dragon energy inside the U-cup, creating a large virtual field, causing the gas to sink below, creating Lai Long. When the spirits die here, they will become the soul that nourishes Lai Long. The vital energy born from Lai Long nourishes the warrior's courage and is inviolable, creating prestige for the family for generations to come. In the Chow family, this place is where the incompetent and sick are buried alive. Even more pitiful are the elderly who, when they no longer have much to give to their children and grandchildren, will be brought here and put into deep graves. Every day they will be given a portion of rice, as well as a meal. The brick has cinnabar charms painted on it and is placed on the tomb door. This brick's intention is that after death, it will not let the ghost of the ghost follow the negative energy to harm people in the house, until the grave's mouth is filled. The faint cries and groans that Chow Bien heard before were those of the people still alive in the tombs, or the echoes of the souls complaining about their fate. Before they were alive, they were also the people who had done this. He did a lot of work for the family, dedicating himself to the point of exhaustion, but in the end he suffered the same fate as those buried alive, sitting at the bottom of the cave every day, looking up at the dark roof of the tomb, and wailing. If anyone did not ghost, they would escape, suffering double punishment, that is, being caught again and then not being given food. Instead of one brick, it will double as 2 bricks. That person seems to be closer to the underworld than ever. Chow Bien has now also become a victim of this cruel custom. His body is in pain, his whole body is exhausted, but the pain of abandonment from the father he respects and loves is even more painful. Suddenly, out of nowhere, there was a dry, bone-white hand from behind holding his shoulder. A voice rang out like a soul from the underworld. After falling into the grave, young man Chow cried until his throat was dry. Tears ran out, but his father didn't come back. Meanwhile, a dry, bone-white hand grabbed his shoulder from behind and said, "Bien Ni, be brave, man. I would rather shed blood than shed tears." The voice whispered in the darkness behind him, causing goosebumps to appear on his skin. Perhaps this was a hungry, resentful soul, preparing to devour him. But he suddenly realized that this was a very familiar voice. Familiar and warm like that of a relative in my family, so I calmed down and turned around and said, "Could it be, it's you? It's true that I am grandfather." Moving his lips with both joy and worry, he turned around and took his grandfather's dry, skin-covered arm and said, "What happened?" "Why, he died more than 2 weeks ago. The ghosts are very large. And his grave is still behind the family yard. I still go there every day. Incense for you. Why are you here now? I don't understand this. Can you explain it to me clearly?" Now that he was getting used to the darkness, Chow Bien realized that in front of him was his grandfather, his once majestic and heroic face, now wrinkled with only a little skin left, his scalp sunken and only flared a few strands of hair. If it weren't for the large scar running down his face, a scar left over from when he went to war, he wouldn't have recognized him as his grandfather. At this moment, his grandfather tried to utter each word. "It's just creating a fake grave. That's our family's rule. When we get old and can no longer help our children or grandchildren, we will be sent to this Chow Quan tomb until we die, with a makeshift funeral and grave, just to cover our eyes. People, don't let people peek into the affairs of my family. And grandchild, how did you end up here?" Chow Bien told his grandfather everything. After listening, he said, "The word Tan in the Chow family is like that. Being cruel is also a motivation for others to strive without stopping." Chow Bien said in anger, "But in my opinion, that is too cruel. For example, after many years of fighting here, I have more or less contributed to creating the Chow family status as it is today. Why can't I rest in peace like everyone else and put them in a safe place? This darkness of exile. You yourself, don't you have the right to choose a passion for yourself? There are also officials of literature and martial arts. If you feel like you don't have the strength, what's wrong with choosing Confucianism? Why did you take the same route and send me to death? I'm really not convinced." Chow Sung Van said calmly. In the past, the Chow family has been a mandarin and military general, and the official roads have been successful to this day, thanks to the blood and bones of our predecessors. You must remember this: in life, only believe in yourself, don't trust anyone. Even the closest relatives that you trust and love the most can lead you to death. I feel that way now. Again, when death cannot be avoided, the flesh and bones will be crushed, but the courage will still be there. If the ancestors live and leave behind young men, when they die, they will leave behind young men for their descendants and together build the Chow family forever. I can leave with peace of mind." Chow Bien looked at his grandfather and thought, what a cruel and unfair custom. Grandfather Chow Sung Van was once a prestigious and virtuous veteran, but now he is like a dry skeleton lying there waiting for the day he will take off his clothes and worship the heavens. Then thought about finding a way to escape. For a normal healthy person, such a deep hole would be difficult to climb up. Chow Bien, who was naturally weak and not in good health, tried his best to climb to the roof of the tunnel. The grave, 5 times 7 times, I climbed up and slid down. My legs were shaking, my hands were stiff, I was sweating and I sat panting as if I was about to run out of breath. Boy Chow didn't know that his father's intention was to awaken 2 human instincts that he was unaware of. During his near-death karma, writing and poetry at this time only helped him sing sad and sad songs, but there's no hope. Chow Thua Min knew that his son was not the type to use external force for his own strength, so he guided him along the path of internal force using spiritual power. Legend has it that there is a type of secret magic of Yunnan ghost called Yin Yang Ai, that when people are in a dark place without light, where there is a strong yin energy, for 100 consecutive days they will have better eyesight than humans, and can perceive. If you master this technique, you will be able to see through yin and yang, wind and land, and in the dark you will see as clearly as day. Therefore, Chow Thua Min deliberately put his son in the darkest place in Chow Quan's tomb to awaken this ability. 1 is to survive and become a human, 2 is to not be able to overcome it, then it is considered fate. Arrange. Day after day, at the beginning of the horse, a little rice and water fell from the top of the grave to the bottom for the 2 of them to eat. Even though they whined, screamed and begged in every way, they only received terrifying silence. The sound of a horse neighing and then galloping away again. Even now, his grandfather can't even swallow rice and only drinks water to hold his breath, waiting for the day when he can ride the wind and follow the clouds. When his grandfather died in front of him, he hugged his grandfather's body and cried without a sound. Chow Bien did not want to see the image of him dying unjustly like that. His heart was filled with hatred because he no longer had love. Members of his family raised their faces to the roof of the tomb and swore an oath. If I get out of this place, I will take both capital and interest from this hatred. People often say, if the tree moves, the tree's roots will be severed and it will die. and the person who doesn't move will lie down and wait for death. Knowing this clearly, all his efforts to escape from this place were in vain. His health had gradually weakened over the days, and now he only lay barely alive, next to his grandfather's body. The corpse had been stench for a long time, combined with the smell. The strong filth in the grave is no different from hell. Now he is like a lamp about to run out of oil, his life will soon end. That day, the sky was as dark as ink. In the grave, I could feel the night had come, the wind was getting colder. In the middle of the night, the cold air blew down below. Chow Bien curled up and looked up. Up on the dark roof of the tomb, my stomach gurgled with hunger. The tiny piece of rice I tried to eat since morning was now drifting to different directions. My head was dizzy and I was lying with my eyes closed. Suddenly I heard a small bell ringing on my face. The land then grew larger. The sound of wind came from nowhere. The cries from the graves above began to grow louder, sounding like the sound of scattered souls from all directions finding this place. He tried to raise his eyes to look up. From the top of the tomb suddenly there was a rope hanging down below, blinding light from a figure, wearing a small light lamp, slowly climbing down. Chow Bien squinted his eyes and looked closely and saw that it was a young Taoist monk, holding a jar of jade green gourd. He walked closer and looked at the lamp to see the two of them. Seeing that Chow Bien was still alive, he was startled and said, Why are there two corpses, master, two corpses?" He looked up at the top of the tomb and spoke loudly for someone up there to hear. A head of white hair peeked out from above, looked down and said, "I see, there must be something going on. If that old man is dead then just leave him there. As for that kid, he's still alive, bring him up here." When he was pulled to the ground, Chow Bien's arms and legs were so weak that he could not walk. He tried to say the two words, "Thank you," and then put his hand into the water bottle as if intentionally asking for a drink. The other two people knew what they meant and immediately gave it to him, pointing after drinking it all in one breath. Like a dry tree caught in a shower, he had a little more vitality to live. After he calmed down and looked back, he saw an old Taoist who was about 50 years old, and the other young Taoist was only about his age. The two people had black forensic faces, wore red cloth belts, and had black and white embroidered shirts, white skulls. They knew that this was the Bok Kot sect, but they heard their father say a few times that the court was hunting them everywhere. The old Taoist, with a plump figure, a frowning face, and a white goatee on his chin said, "Who are you? Why are you in the tomb?" Although Chow Bien's health has not yet recovered, he knows that if he reveals his identity, it will be difficult to preserve his life. If he knows that he is the son of then Sach Quan Chow Thua Min, who specializes in hunting criminals. If you encounter a big cult, kill the big, kill the big, kill the small, then your life will surely end. You should lie. Yes. I am a scholar. I accidentally passed by here. I was caught by bandits and robbed, then pushed into this deep cave. Thank you, old man, and you, for saving my life. If in the future, see you again, please repay me. Having finished speaking, he bowed his head in gratitude, and the old black man shook his head and laughed loudly. Haha, went to collect dead souls, but met living souls. Today it seems like a curse. It's true that people's calculation is not as good as heaven's calculation. Looks like I did a good deed today. Then he lost expression, and when he looked at Chow Bien's face he continued, I find your eyes very strange. Why are they yellow and red? Chow Bien only now felt this strange thing in his eyes. Looking around, he saw clearly the waves of afterglow sounds. and saw many night ghost souls nearby crying, the color of the previous space. Now there are only two colors, black and white, without color, so I was a little scared and said to the old man, "I don't know why, please enlighten me, what is the meaning of this vision?" The old man said, "I've only heard the legends, if it's accurate then call it yin yang. People with it are extremely rare. It's said that they can see through darkness and ghosts, can command the underworld soldiers. If that's true, then you are truly a rare person. If you practice the Taoist eye and meet the right teacher, you will do great karma in the future." Stroking his goatee, he continued, "Looks like you and I have a relationship. It's true that anyone who meets me knows what I've done. I'm determined not to let that person survive. Now it seems like I'm sparing your life. See you later." Then turned to the young Taoist and said, "Disciples, it's almost dawn, pack up and go back to Bok Kotmu." "Yes. Obey Master." Just seeing the young Taoist holding the small bell in his hand and gently ringing it 3 times, King. Kang. Kang, a light breeze blowing in his ear, Chow Bien seemed dumbfounded, his skin and hair stood on end, when he saw it from inside the tunnel. Grave shadows jumped to the ground, including more than 5 corpses. Those corpses were no longer alive, their faces were black and gray, their long fangs still had some blood on them, all of their faces were dressed in black, they were definitely black corpses. After hearing the command bells on the hands of the Taoists lined up neatly, both arms stretched out in front of them and danced in short intervals, following each bell of the young Taoist. The other 2 teachers and students walked quickly into Yukok. Chow Bien had never seen this horrifying story and couldn't help but drink a mouthful of cold air. From what he heard, he more or less imagined that this was the Bok Kot sect that specialized in stealing corpses to practice corpse training. According to folklore, skilled magicians in Tuong Te who follow evil religions often use the bodies of dead people to train them into Han Ti, some places also called Tik Tik. There are many different types and grades of refined corpses. Starting from the lowest type is Bok Ti, which is a newly dead body, the skin has not yet completely decomposed, the face looks like it is sleeping, only sucks the blood of animals to live, raging at night and sleeping in a coffin during the day. Very afraid of light, after time will become black corpse, at this time the skin will dry, dark gray face, specializing in sucking human blood, with more training time will become Phi T, at this time the zombie can fly in the air, fly away to find a man to suck the essence. After hundreds of years of practice, it will be the Limit T, also known as the Limit, who will absorb enough essence and will have magic power to transform. Wherever it appears, Limit will be born. The highest level is Tin T, a type of zombie that lives for over 1,000 years, can transform into a normal person, and has profound magic power that is difficult to subdue. Today I saw with my own eyes what was truly a black corpse. The old man with the goatee saw that this kid was about to die. It seemed like there was no blood in his body, so he spared Chow Bien's life. Seeing that strange method of his from the Bok Kot sect, he seemed to have opened his eyes wide, looking at the silhouettes of the 2 teachers and students with a secret feeling. Arriving late or coming early, it was better to arrive at the right time, saving his life. Now he slowly walked out step by step. In the valley, I think about many things. People often say, fate stands still, but fate is always moving. Chow Bien escaped death, but resentment arose in his heart, thinking that he was lonely, the gentleman took revenge. 10 years is not too late. After returning from Mo Chao Quan's tomb, I felt like I was dead. If I am not evil, someone will be evil to me, no matter who that person is. So when he returned to the Chow family, he bowed his head and begged his father to give him more opportunities and in a little time to prove that he was a useful person for the Chow family. Chow Thua Min then took him to Van Hak's son to meet Lu Ba, who inherited the Tam Nguyen Phi Tin Dharma. There is a saying in the world, it is better to incur the sins of a gentleman than to incur the sins of a petty person. Chow Bien, after many years of successfully receiving Dharma teachings, returned to his family home and accomplished many feats in the royal court, rising to the position of minister. History, then Tet Du envoy of Annam. He bluntly took Chow Thua Min, who was old and sick and no longer useful, into Chow Quan's tomb to train So Ai Vong and become his Dharma protector. Speaking of Chow Bien, when the bloody battle with Hong Chi was defeated, the trees fell and the monkeys scattered, he left everything, like a lost soul wandering around, not knowing what to do, leaving behind his kind wife and small children to go. When he went to Phuong Nam to work as a lieutenant, he had a ghostly wife and a daughter 2 years younger named Chow Hong Lin. This wife's name was La Na, very beautiful, and people often called her La Nuang Tuesday. From the beginning, La Nuang Tu had protested many times against her husband's inhumane actions. Because she was a wife, she had no voice. La Nuang felt so depressed that she decided not to stay with Chow Bien in the city. Dai La. One night, mother and daughter hugged each other and left. They went to a small ghost village called Ha Dong and built a small house here to practice silk weaving. Seeing that the rain was not favorable here, the land was not harmonious, and the people were poor all year round but did not have enough food to eat, La Nuang passed on the weaving profession to the people for a living. Not long after hearing the news that Chow Bien had caused a terrible incident, he felt sorry for the people of Annam, so one night he left Chow Hong Lin behind and jumped into the river alone to commit suicide. The villagers mourned for the unfortunate beauty. Did many good deeds, so he built a temple at the place where La Nuang Tu planted himself. Later, the most famous craft village in Dai Nam for weaving ghost silk is called Ha Dong. The temple worships La Nuang, the founder of silk weaving. Later, when the mutiny passed, Chow Bien went everywhere to find Chow Hong Lin and turned it on. All his hopes for the last drop of blood he had left in the world were not complete. When he was young, he wore a jade pendant shaped like a blood-colored phoenix around Chow Hong Lin's neck. Now he only knows how to follow that small trace. Searching, in vain. Returning to Ha Dong, where his wife and children lived before, searching, he only heard people say that Chow Hong Lin had been adopted by a monk, and now he didn't know where he was going. When he was sitting at the foot of the Taeo Jia Tien statue, he was drunk. He closed his eyes and opened his eyes to see a small female figure with long hair and a face as delicate as a fairy, sitting in front of him. He reached out his hand to cup his chin, looked into his eyes and said, "Where is the courage of our Chow family?" Looking like a disabled man, Chow Thursday Su, who once screamed fire, is now like a dry corpse. "Are you worthy to be my father?" Then he stood up, turned and walked out the temple door. Chow Bien told him, Is that you? Do you know how hard it was for me to find you?" Chow Hong Lin: "I'm not sure if it's true or not. I just saw that the woman was wearing a blood-red jade pendant shaped like a phoenix bird around her neck. Today, Ta Ao Duong received a distinguished guest, the old Mandarin Tong of the 7 Vespers. Lieutenant Trong Kien, after receiving an audience with Mrs. Ka. Looking at Duk Huin's smiling face, standing seriously next to Mrs. Ka, he said with a serious face, how fortunate to be able to meet with you today. By the way, it's just that I have the privilege of promoting this important matter to the lady. The current society is very lacking in talent. Now, I am following the orders of the superiors to search and build manpower for the Yamen. Realizing that Du Quinn has highly skilled in medicine, I asked the higher mandarin to find a talented person to take on the position of medical assistant for the family. Currently, thieves and robbers are rampant. If this lady's family member can help, please consider it. With more blessings, the lady of the family also shows off her face to the world. Lady Ka frowned and expressed her displeasure when hearing old Mandarin Trong Kien say that, so she politely refused. I know that the society is in need of talented people, it's the part of the people, how dare they refuse, but I'm afraid that my son, his temperament is still childish and not delicate, I'm afraid of ruining his work. Before arriving, old Trong Kien seemed to have predicted what his wife would say, so he prepared to answer slowly. I understand this, but the order given above is afraid that if it is not carried out, it will be very difficult for me and the Hong family. Please rest assured, ma'am, I will vouch for my honor. This old man has no children, so he considers Du Quinn as a descendant of the family, and I will properly educate him. Normally, Du Quinn just stays at home. Only when there is something that needs to be handled will I go out, please accept my lady's permission. Du Quinn chimed in. I only go out when I need to, Mom. Normally I stay home to help you with your work at Taeo Duong. Before he finished speaking, Du Quinn only received a glance from Mrs. Ka. Only what is said. Whoever needs my help, don't show up when you need me, show up when you don't need me, just know how to destroy things. Du Quinn heard his mother scolding him and had to stay silent. Mrs. Ka looked at old Trong Kien with suspicion and continued solemnly. Okay. The old mandarin was brought down by orders from above. What he said is not without reason. My family has always considered helping people to be the right thing to do. Is it right for me to refuse? Everyone thinks that my family's religion is narrow-minded. Now I will accept Du Quinn to help Na Mon with the condition that it only involves medical skills. If there is an act of reading feng shui and using my religion, knowing that it will be illegal. Let's do it again. At that time, don't blame me for not showing respect. After speaking, he stood up and walked inside, not forgetting to glare at Du Quinn. Old Mandarin Trong Kien was as happy as if he had caught gold when he received the approval of Mrs. Ka. Du Quinn saw him off outside the family gate, smiling like a ghost, and said to the old Mandarin, "Thank you, old Mandarin, for helping me out of your wealth. Consider that you and I are no longer in debt to each other." Old man Trong Kien said as he walked. Haha, it's still late, kid. You and I are now a team, try to prepare to fight with me. It's just that a few days ago, little Du Quinn met old Mandarin Trong Kien and made a small plan to ask his mother for permission to go out. He was bored to death at home. Now he has fulfilled his wish, and now it's like fish go to the ocean, birds fly in the sky, my heart is filled with indescribable joy. The position of Bao physician, in addition to treating patients, is also someone who examines dead bodies in cases to investigate the culprit, just like today's forensic experts, that's what they say. Du Quinn's main intention is to experiment with feng shui. As long as he has time to go out and fulfill his life's dream, to become a top-notch person like his father, he has read the precious books he has read since then. The Hong family's path is engraved in my mind, and I'm just waiting for the opportunity to put it into practice. Heaven and earth clearly cycle between good and evil, and the human world is never peaceful for long. A strange incident happened in Nam Tri village. The murders happened continuously every few days, and every few days, someone was found dead. All of them were 18-20 girls. When they died, their bodies were still intact, but their skin was as dry as if all the blood had been drained. Their skin was wrinkled and their hair was as white as a wax. The tree withered. Hundreds of thousands of households in Nam Tri village panicked like the family dog is in mourning, the swimming fish are caught in the net. The dentist of Nam Tri village, early in the morning, before it was time to work, people came and loudly knocked on the door to report the crime. Old Trong Kien walked out, put on his outer shirt, quickly pulled on the pants that had not yet been put on and ran away. Outside the door. Although he had not prepared his coffin properly, he still exuded the charisma of a military captain and said loudly, "Come on. Please, everyone, please be serious and honestly report what's going on to me, otherwise how can we handle such a ruckus?" A woman ran out and knelt in front of the old mandarin, with tears in her eyes, hugging Mr. Trong Kien's legs and crying loudly, making the old mandarin, who was already weak, his body was thin, his butt was not covered with flesh, and his pants were untied. So tight, I almost lost my pants. "Oh, that's enough, go inside the main house and explain it to me." There were few people reporting the crime, but many were curious, standing around and sitting in the main room. The soldiers pulled out a dead body wrapped in a ghostly mat. When the old mandarin and the people saw that horrible corpse, everyone suddenly felt a chill down their spine. The woman was in tears. "Speak. I hope the great mandarin will consider finding this evil person and give justice to the servants. I only have one daughter, my husband and I are busy in the capital. This morning when I came home, I saw my child died. He left without saying goodbye. I'm only a weak person like you. I can't get rid of this pain, hoo. Soldiers, go tell Bao Dr. Duc Huin to come here urgently." The crowd below shouted loudly and loudly. "It's a demon. It's a blood-sucking demon. Why can't you see the wound after killing someone, with wrinkled skin and white hair like that? Who else came in here? It's a demon sucking positive energy." Later, Duc Huin arrived after hearing about it, began to glance at the body, and signaled everyone to go home with old Trong Kien. The old man seemed to understand what Duc Huin meant, so he said to everyone, "Please everyone leave so we can focus on investigating the cause. My partner and I are trying our best to solve the case. Everyone go home. I will solve this case, bring justice and peace to Nam Tri village." When everyone had left, there were only a few people left in the temple. After looking at the corpse outside, Duc Huin used a silver needle to prick his big toe and a stream of black blood flowed out. A strong, fishy smell spread throughout the main room, making everyone vomit. Duc Huin signaled to the two officials, "Turn the corpse over and tell old Mandarin Trong Kien. Look at this, on the top of the head there are 2 small holes, behind the shoulders on each side are 6 sharp claws imprinted, with a few colored feathers stuck on them. Tell me, what is the culprit?" Old Trong Kien's eyes were filled with blood, but the hatred contained inside now had the opportunity to burst out. The old mandarin said with each word, "It's you. I've been looking for you for so long. Is now the time for you to show yourself? If I don't eliminate you this time, I won't close my eyes even if I die." The story is that many years ago, Trong Kien was a guy from a rich family. Because Ghosty was lucky enough to marry the daughter of a minister in the court, he was a gentle lady. After half a year of love between husband and wife, his father-in-law became a mandarin in the court. He saw that Trong Kien was a person with a bit of superior ability compared to someone suitable to be a martial mandarin. He wanted his son-in-law to also have some prestige, so he sent Trong Kien went to study martial arts in a faraway place, with the desire to soon become famous and become a mandarin, and later be like a pine tree and a cypress tree for his daughter to rely on. Trong Kien obeyed his father-in-law and set out to study martial arts, while his wife stayed at home obediently with her parents. The lady lived a gentle and virtuous life, and there was nothing to blame. Some time later, late one night, when the cock didn't crow, the dog didn't bark. Suddenly, the lady heard a knock on the door outside the study. When I opened the door, I saw Trong Kien. He was both happy and worried and asked, "Why do you come here? It's almost time for the martial arts competition, but instead of worrying about studying, you run back here at night like this." Trong Kien looked at her with gentle eyes, then put his arms around his back and hugged his wife's waist and said, "Because I missed you so much, I secretly ran away from the place where I learned martial arts, to come back here to see you one night, and then the cock crows and I'll leave right away." The two husband and wife were just married not long ago but quickly separated. Not seeing each other for a day was like 3 autumns, so their love affair was still passionate, and now they met again like fire near straw, passionately spending the whole night together. From then on, every few nights the two husband and wife met each other. For half a year, the princess's appearance became more and more haggard, her skin turned pale, her eyes were sunken, and her hair began to turn white. Trong Kien's parents did not know what happened. Seeing this, they felt sorry for their daughter-in-law, thinking they missed their husband, which is why they were like that. So they wrote a letter to call Trong Kien's daughter home so they could both satisfy their feelings. However, the strange thing is that when Trong Kien returned home, his wife was cold and did not show any joy or care. Trong Kien was very angry, suspecting that while he was studying martial arts, there was someone else in his heart, so he complained. "I went far away to study, worked hard to become talented, sweated and shed tears, everything was for her. Why do you stay away from me even more? Or did you change your mind while I was away?" 2 tears fell from her eyes because she was unfairly accused, so she clarified. "Why did you say that to me? Did you forget so quickly? Just the other day you came home. For the past few months, he has come to see me every 2 or 3 days. You have to ask yourself." Hearing that, Trong Kien immediately became angry and said, "It's unreasonable. I'm here on the military field practicing day and night. I don't even have time to eat or sleep, but you say things like a dream, or maybe you're delusional, going around with other people and thinking, is my husband Dutton?" After hearing this, the wife said in anger, "How am I doing? Your parents know. Besides my housework, I just stay in my room and don't go out. Now I have to bear the burden of bad news. If you doubt me, please die to show your gratitude." Having finished speaking, he rushed away. Trong Kien's parents saw that, so they stopped him. They also believed and thought that their daughter-in-law's words were true. Since becoming a daughter-in-law, the Trong family has always maintained filial piety. There must be some hidden meaning. After that, everyone calmed down and sat down to talk to each other about the strange things that had happened at the house in recent days. Suspecting that there were ghosts and demons roaming around, everyone made a plan to see what was going on. That night, everyone unanimously agreed to plot to capture the monster, even turning off the lights and pretending to be asleep, then peeked through the door. Late at night, when the moon was high and the wind was dim, a gust of wind swept down in front of the lady's room. A very familiar figure appeared, Everyone saw it and suddenly felt chills down their spines. It was Trong Kien, a second Trong Kien. 2 stars. Trong Kien sat hidden with everyone and tried to whisper. Why did a second Trong Kien appear besides me? This is definitely a demon appearing. It seems your family is destined to meet me. Having finished speaking, he swung his knife and jumped out in front of that monster, shouting loudly. What evil world, if you meet me today, your life will be over here. Hearing Trong Kien's loud scream, the guy was able to dodge the deadly knife strike, only hearing a loud chip sound. In the blink of an eye, the demon jumped out into the yard and changed shape, transforming into a Tien Thursday. Sack, 5-colored mouse, is as big as a human, with long white hair and a white beard, countless sharp claws on his limbs, and purple-blue eyes glaring at Trong Kien and growling. More than 10 people from the entire family ran out together, each holding sharp weapons in their hands, shouting together and rushing at that demon. Seeing that her body was exposed and she was weak, if she remained here she would have to die. It shook its body and jumped onto the roof, running high and flying away. Although Trong Kien's body was not ordinary, like Tien Thursday Sack, using evil magic, he quickly glided into the dark night and disappeared. There is a saying that fate is 3 feet, but it is difficult to weigh 1 foot. Even though Trong Kien had discovered the truth, his wife's fate was still fading, his strength was gone, and he soon surrendered his clothes to worship the sky. Trong Kien held his wife in his arms, his heart filled with regret and blame. Because of my fate, I did not fulfill my responsibility as a husband, making her suffer, leaving without closing her eyes. There are all kinds of medicine in the world, but there is no medicine called regret. Trong Kien holds a grudge in his heart, practices martial arts by day, and hunts Tien Thursday Sack at night for many years, still missing. Until today, seeing the signs on that corpse made old Trong Kien unable to control his emotions. Duc Huyen, after knowing the situation, came to sit next to the old mandarin and comforted him. According to the book my father left behind, there is mention of this demon Tien Thursday Sack, which is also one of the 5 great immortals. If an animal or ghost cultivates to the highest realm and reaches the state of noble master, the true person absorbs more yin energy to cultivate. The human body has male yang and female yin. It has developed a very lustful nature, specializing in transforming into a woman's loved one or husband to deceive and attract love. Cultivation of yin energy becomes essence. The place where yin energy gathers the most on a woman's body is usually on the top of the head and behind the shoulders, so it often sticks to it, causing pain, and absorbs the yin energy from the person it clings to. Soon there was only a dry corpse left. Trong Kien looked up at Duc Huyen and said, "After many years of researching this matter, I already know a little bit. Thank you, young man, for letting me know a few more things. Now what should I do if I want to find it? That's what I'm concerned about." Duc Huyen confidently said, "I know this. I have to find a feng shui place called Lac Tuc Na, which is the place with the most yin energy in the area. The 2 sides of the high cliff belong to the metal element, and below there is a small stream of water belonging to the metal element. When water and air meet the wind, they will disperse. When they meet water, they will gather. Tien Thursday Sack will find that place to cultivate the noble truth. At that time I will eliminate it." Hearing this, old Trong Kien's eyes lit up. He stood up and said loudly, "What are you waiting for? Let's go on a journey to find that cruel demon. Nowhere far from this area we have it in our hands. In the Tan Kok Mountains, I know there is a place like what you kid said. This demon has been cultivating for thousands of years. It's not easy for me. If I don't prepare carefully, I'm afraid that even if I leave, I won't come back. I'll go back and pack some ghost items with me so I can carry out the 7 Stars Soul Battle to capture it. Old Trong Kien said, if you need anything from me, just say it, including my life. I'm determined to live happily this time. After Duk Huynh told Duk Huynh, the old man was determined to live happily. Determined to repay the hatred in his heart for so long, he waited day and night for the day he and Duk Huynh would set out on the road. They woke up every night, crawled up in the middle of the night, and stayed up all night waiting for dawn. The next day, Duk Huynh arrived in front of Duk Huynh's house screaming loudly. A moment later, I saw little Duk Huynh come out, his hands still covering his mouth and yawning. He shouldered and said, "Hey old Mandarin, it's okay for you to have trouble sleeping, I'm still old enough, I can do whatever I want. Wait until I wake up, eat enough and then go on my journey. The year is long and the months are wide, so why be impatient?" The old Mandarin, smiling and considerately said, come on, I'll take you out to eat whatever you want." Actually, I couldn't close my eyes all night, thinking about a way to feed that cruel beast, shattered into 100 pieces to release this anger. Duk Huynh shook his head, put the bag on his shoulder, turned and said to the old Mandarin, "Have you thought of any plan yet? This star mouse has been cultivating for thousands of years, its body is covered with iridescent hair as hard as steel, no matter how swords or spells seem to be ineffective against it. So, is there anything you can do, little guy?" Without hastily replying to old Trong Kien's words, Duk Huynh turned back into the house and whistled. A bark sounded like obedience from the dog Huynda, who ran out and stood next to his owner. Duk Huynh said, "If you want to know how to handle that place, you should consider it." It took both people and dogs more than half a day to reach the foot of Lin Sun Mountain. The mountain range is formed by 3 large and small peaks arranged in a triangle shape, so it is also called Tan Kok. Standing looking at the cliff, Duk Huynh said, "It seems that this is exactly the place. On both sides of the cliff is high, a small stream flows below. In Feng Shui it is called Lak Tuc Na. This place has the Yin energy deposited, meeting all the elements. Underworld is a very suitable place for evil spirits to cultivate." Duk Huynh looked at the old Mandarin again and said, "You don't know, since ancient times, when people knew how to see astronomy, sea creatures, land, and rivers, they realized that they were closely related to each other. Just like humans, there are also veins and qi. Skilled Feng Shui masters are also divided into many levels. Normally, they look at the Earth's situation, higher level people look at the dragon's veins, and Feng Shui masters only look at astronomical stars and predict things like gods. There is a saying of 100 feet. Looking at the image, 1,000 feet looking at the body is like that. Old Trong Kien had only known about war and swords, not knowing what Feng Shui was, so when he heard Duk Huynh's explanation, he cooed like a duck hearing thunder, turned around and said, Real Feng Shui. Is that so beneficial? In front of this deep canyon is a deserted swamp, the birds don't cry, the monkeys don't howl. While talking and walking, we soon arrived in front of a large cave entrance. Inside were divided into 5 or 3 large caves. Small. Duk Huynh sat down, took out the bronze lakin and held it in his hand, looking to see which cave to go into. The compass needle on it suddenly vibrated and rotated horizontally and vertically. Huynh the dog, ever since he entered here, growling around with cold eyes, ran up and stood in front of a cave howling. Duk Huynh sat down, took out some items from his hand, and put them on the ground. A small yellow flag with 7 bronze coins, a little rooster blood, 3 sticks of incense, and a golden talisman in hand. Tell Mr. Trong Kien, now is an important time, I'll go and stick 8 talismans for you. This charm is around here, remember not to go too far. I will use the small 1,000 flag to enlighten the ancestors to see if we have enough spiritual power to continue or return. Having finished speaking, water the rooster's blood into a small circle, stick the small flag tree in the ground, arrange coins around it, then hold 3 incense sticks and a golden talisman on the forehead and read the command, Hail to the mountain gods. Sun, mountain god, Earth Gong of Lin Sun Mountain, please allow me to enter the deep cave to find and destroy the evil spirits that harm the world. Infinite Heavenly Venerable. A gust of wind blew across the mountain cave entrance, and the small flag fell to the ground. Duc Huin quickly turned and said to old Trong Kien, Let's go home, old Mandarin, it's not possible today, the ancestors and gods don't allow it. Suddenly I saw old Trong Kien standing motionless looking at the cave entrance, then shouted loudly, I see you, you monster, don't try to escape this time. Before he could finish speaking, he grabbed the knife and rushed into the cave entrance. The target was the mouse monster. Now that he had seen the shadow inside, 3 cows and 9 buffaloes could not pull old Trong Kien back. Duc Huin stood up and quickly ran away. Went in to see what was going on. Then a laughing voice rang out from behind. On a high cliff jutting out, there is a young girl as beautiful as a flower, with long black hair, holding 10 sparkling silver con minda in her hand, sitting and looking down at Duc Huin, saying, Haha, run for it until you die, always. Look at you, the scholar doesn't tie the chicken tightly. I only know a few feng shui techniques, but I'm still risking my life. It seems like I haven't seen talent before shedding tears. Saying that, he jumped down from above, looked at Duc Huin and said, The old master called me here because he wanted to help this scholar. That's right. Duc Huin now only cares about old Trong Kien, so he doesn't care about what that girl said. Turning to tell her, Please forgive me, who are you? Why do you say that to me? Now that the old Mandarin is in danger, I have no time to argue with you. Okay, let's talk later. My name is Ahon, 5th generation disciple of the Vinaya sect. Both of them rushed into the deep cave entrance in 3 steps. In the deep dark cave, every fishy smell rushed straight into Duc Huin's throat, making Duc Huin vomit. In his stomach. Huin De looked down at the ground and barked loudly. At this moment, Duc Huin saw a field of human corpses in front, all still wearing Nam clothes, the lower half of the body in the other half on the ground, 2 holes. Empty eyes. It's like when they were still alive and then they were killed and then buried half of their bodies from the waist down. What is this? Duc Huin was startled, his hair stood up and his scalp felt numb. At this time, Ahon was no different from Duc Huin. He carefully looked everywhere and said, It's very similar to a dragon map formation, is this in legend? I've only heard my master say it. Could it be that I'm dealing with a dragon? With a feng shui master like you, I don't know. For someone new to feng shui, Duc Huin's first encounter with this situation was unavoidably surprising. Feng shui has many different shapes and forms, and there are thousands of different qi patterns. But this is a layout that is as clear as day, and it is the basics of feng shui that cannot be ignored. Duc Huin has only now calmed down, looked carefully at the incident, and then uttered each word, It's a ghost, narrative, who did this cruel thing in the land of Annam. Duc Huin added, Look, lady, In the middle of this formation is an Fat Boy. Above there is the Demon Seal. Below is the Fuchs Soul Talisman that has been enchanted by the Diane Van Tran spell. The upper seal below has been enchanting ghosts for thousands of years, and has now been moved to another direction, creating a weak position to release the ghost force. To move it is not easy. The magician must have morality of the true person level or higher, combined with the power of magical energy, to change the universe to resolve it. That's why I can't believe my eyes. This Demon King formation technique comes from the Congregation of Sects in the north of Shaanxi. Later, it was re-established by evil magicians from the Tuc Jiao Tho sect along with earthen tombs or catacombs into Chu Chu Chi technique. It is a way to break the evil spell that the skilled magician had previously sealed. There. This method not only releases the evil spirit, but then conquers it by burying alive the good man and the virgin woman. In every land, there are heavenly spirits and earthly spirits, guardians and ghosts, and monsters. Mages with great morals will team up with the gods to prevent evil from disturbing the human world. Why not eliminate them but instead protect them? That's because heaven is impermanent. The Taoist school accepts ghosts, the Buddha family traps ghosts, no one has the right to eliminate others, so the protection is because of the virtue of love for life, hope for them. A way to live that corrects evil. This enchantment formation is to stimulate the spiritual energy of mountains and rivers from ancient times. Temples, pagodas, and temples borrow the mountains back and lean on the creation to generate good spiritual energy. Good spiritual energy will create an invisible spiritual body. Spiritual energy of rivers and mountains, also known collectively as Yin Qi or Yang Qi. Combined with the Jade Qi seal, it will suppress the above, creating a magnetic field around it to suppress ghosts. The magic of the devil will bury the corpses of 3 virgin women and 6 virgin men. After offering blood sacrifices to the evil spirits to regain vitality, they will use magic power to move the Dharma seal to suppress evil spirits, helping to release evil spirits. Promote more spiritual energy for ghosts to harass. Meanwhile, a shadow of a person approached. When he looked, he saw that it was old man Trong Kien. Duc Huin was secretly happy to see that he was not in danger. Then the joy and smile on his lips suddenly disappeared when he heard a Hon's voice. Said, "Step aside. That's not the person I'm looking for." As soon as he finished speaking, the other person immediately transformed into Tian Thursday Sack. Duc Huin was pulled behind by a Hon, but at this time his body turned to stone and his eyes became numb. A Hon swung Con Minda to fight with Tian Thursday Sack and shouted loudly for Duc Huin to hear, "Pick up Chan Tian Gosta's blood quickly or there will be no time left." Duc Huin heard about Chan Tian's blood and knew that it was a secret method to neutralize evil magic of Taoism, which is to take blood from the tip of his tongue. That is, a person who has cultivated the Tao, has never been married, and his body is still the same. Death. Bite the tip of the tongue after bleeding will immediately produce yang essence to neutralize evil magic. This move is useful when practicing magic and encountering evil spirits. Hands and feet cannot use magic talismans. After using immediately, complete soul. Seeing that a Hon was indeed agile, he fought with Tian Thursday Sack for several consecutive rounds without losing strength. Meanwhile, taking advantage of a Hon who was fighting with Tian Thursday Sack, Duc Huin displayed the 7 stars soul formation. The method of subduing goblins. 7 souls is a formation passed down by the old master that specializes in defeating ghosts, using 7 types of spells, opening the eyes, seeing the 3 tons of demons, or to put it more clearly, each type of ghosts. There are 3 weak points in the body. If you don't use this method, it will be difficult to find a way to eliminate them. Duc Huyen, after finishing the formation, quickly said to Ahone. Miss Hone backed away. Let me. Having finished speaking, he grabbed the seal in his hand and drew 7 colorful talismans, shouting loudly, 7 stars soul path. Only seeing a dazzling light, Tian Thursday sack seemed to be illuminated by those talismans clinging to it, revealing the above 3 vital acupuncture points. Close. Eyes, belly and tail. Ahone looked at it and knew the weak point, so he rushed forward and threw out 3 darts from his hand, each with a blue amulet, aiming right at the monster's vital point. Only the mournful scream of Tian Thursday sack could be heard. The body melted into a cloud of black crystals, and now a small mouse was seen lying dead, black and stinking blood rising up. Instantly, from somewhere in the cave, a horrifying voice sounded like it was piercing deep into the soul. The power created shook the surrounding sand and soil. Who was it that disturbed the sleep? Killed my pet Tian Thursday sack again. Have the humans no longer wanted to live? Then the sound stopped completely, a silence like the underworld, pulling the soul and body apart. Duc Huyen and Ahone were speechless when they saw 3 silhouettes step out from inside. In the middle is a woman with the body of a tiger and the head of a human. Her face is white, her eyes are sunken, and the word "caught" is written on her forehead. 2 more people next to each other is equally strange. One was a small, white-haired man, the other was a woman with a beautiful body in emerald green skin. All 3 of them had extraordinary spiritual power, just looking at them made people feel gloomy. The white-haired man saw Duc Huyen and Ahone immediately respectfully said to the other person, "Yes. Dear King Bao Cot, let me and my husband take action on this small matter. Please take the lead." Bao Cot turned his back inside and said to him, "Be careful not to be reckless. Before there was an Annam person who eliminated my disciple, Lady Bok Cot, now Bok Kun Pai Ba, you should instead of me, clean up this mess. Remember that it is Jiao Long and Feng Hong and Nam reincarnated. Don't be reckless." At that moment, suddenly heard the sound of horses neighing outside the cave entrance, 3 agile figures, wearing bright red robes, the back of the robe embroidered with Bok Ko Lao, white skull, glided inside, clasping hands. Respectfully greet Bok Ko and Pai Ba. Yes, we heard some noise and rushed here to pay our respects. We were late to ask the guardian spirits for forgiveness. To atone for your sins, I invite you to come in and rest in peace. These little Annam people let us do it. Don't get your hands dirty. After speaking, he turned around, rolled his eyes angrily and said to Duc Huyen and Ahone, "Who allowed you to come in here? How dare the Annam people disturb Tien Tru's affairs? Now I will let you die, unlike the corpses lying here. What if it's me? The 3 of you, as far as I know, are Mok Tan, Truong Fu and Hoa Fu. They are the envoys of Annam, who have been colonized to extract wealth and harm honest people. You guys are now doing this terrible thing, changing the enchantment and dissolving the seal of Dai Viet's evil spirit. You are the ones who deserve to die." The other 3 turned to see an old mandarin, covered in wounds and unable to breathe. Laughed loudly. Even though he's about to die, he still speaks loudly. "Haha. This old Trong Kien always tries to stop us from recruiting young men and women from the village to sacrifice to our gods. We've long been considered a thorn in our side. I want to chop you up, now burying your family alive here seems like a blessing." There was also a loud shout from above. A figure jumped down, holding the sword dragon quiet in his hand. There's still this old man here. Even though he's ruined, he's not useless. It seems that many of us let the 3TUC Jiao though people freely bury alive. If you can't bury us, then it seems like this is also the hole to bury you guys, haha. The dog Huinda, barking loudly, its fur stood up, looking towards the three people of TUC Jiao though. Next to him was a one-eyed old man. The light from his yellow eye had now turned into a terrifying blue. Who are these three guys with the same title of Annam governor? In the past, the Heavenly Dynasty often appointed a single person to take turns as the governor of Annam. Now, seeing the chaos of times, martyrs everywhere rebelled and joined forces to defeat the northern invaders and reclaim the Dai land. In Vietnam, there were constant wars, big and small, that happened every day, plus the incident of Chow Thursday Sioux in the past. In the name of the royal court, he intended to cause chaos, plotting to occupy Annam land, building his own dream of hegemony. Three people, Mok Tan, Truong Phu, and Hoa Phu, were acting as governors at the same time according to Tien Tru's will, which was to divide power into three, not to focus on one person to avoid causing rebellion. People often say to search the river. It's easy to probe the sea, but few people use a ruler to measure people's hearts. When they entered Annam, they saw that the southern sky was truly, if we walked with our heels on, we couldn't find it, but we stood still and sat looking at our feet, a land of harmony between heaven and earth. There were many dragon veins with Tien Tu Chi, the emperor's vein was prosperous. They immediately began to destroy and attack dragon holes everywhere. Learning from the experience of those who failed first, they used military force to steal the four treasures. The black bronze magic weapon that protects Dai Viet's feng shui was destroyed. Take ghost ingredients to the north. These three guys were originally three fellow monks, sharing the same TUC Jiao Tho sect, formerly the Bok Kot sect. After Hong Chi destroyed Mrs. Bok Kot, the trees fell and the birds flew away. They disintegrated like the bees broke their nest and ran everywhere. It is said that a high-ranking dignitary in the sect, profound in his internal teachings, named Chao Bian, also suffered a humiliating defeat in Annam. Ghost had a bone-deep resentment and avoided being hunted. Searching the court, there were still a few people who established evil sects, using new bottles of old wine under the name TUC Jiao Tho. In the name of their knack for feng shui, with profound evil methods, they crept into officialdom, forming factions. Reputation soon became a great force, an indispensable part of the dynasty's plan to compete for territory in annexed neighboring countries. In the TUC Jiao Tho sect, there is a unique move that, if practiced, is unrivaled in power, fierce and terrifying, calls rain and wind, releases evil spirits, and suppresses dragon veins called Tam Ti Then. If you want to practice the move, you must practice it. To do this, you must find three people with the same date and time of birth who belong to the snake, that is, the Yin fire life. Then they practice together for many years to form the SUC Soul Dharma to protect the enchantment, including TUC Soul Insect, to guard graves, TUC Soul Cave, Town Cave, TUC Soul Dang, Town Dragon Circuit. In addition, there is an ancient secret technique called Tam Trung Ti. A poisonous corpse who is unlucky enough to be hit by this trick will die. Death seems to be fearless. Then, this trio, Mok Tan, Truong Phu, and Hoa Phu, went everywhere together. When they came to Annam, they tried their best to loot people's wealth and real estate. Using the military force to oppress innocent people by force, creating a policy of assimilation of the people. They arrested prefectures, districts, and villages, destroyed temples worshipping southern gods, and forced these places to worship Chinese gods, forcing Vietnamese boys and girls to wear clothes like the North, not to cut their hair. Every year, they had to pay tribute to Vietnam's elite talents to the North to be tamed, in order to destroy the fortune of the Dai Viet people. The people were miserable, hungry and suffering everywhere. The angry mandarins acted in a barbaric manner. When forced into a dead end, the dog bit back, and chaos broke out everywhere. They used evil ways and set up formations, killing countless innocent people. The first thing to do is to cut off the dragon's veins, in the most cruel way of Do Not Long, which is to dig a well exactly 7 feet from the dragon's head, then use black bronze to cast a stick of Con Thursday umbrella, which is nailed to the bottom. Well, a method that skilled feng shui magicians rarely do because it damages good fortune. Once the dragon vein is destroyed, it takes time to recover. If done this way, the dragon vein will be 10 times slower. It takes years, thousands of years to recover, then forever the dragon energy will be destroyed and will never regenerate. This is because we want the people of the South to no longer have a chance. But the land of Vietnam is where Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, talented people everywhere have dragon energy. Tien Tu Chi can be released at any time. Learn from the failure of the predecessor Chow Chow, be careful and do not feel guilty. They established the magic of the devil's magic to neutralize Dai Viet's evil spirits, giving them more victory. Before going to Annam, they used the devil's heaven soul pepper method to call on the guardian god of the White Bone sect, the Tiger Bone spirit. The king also helps. The first thing is to find the Tam Kok abyss where these evil spirits are suppressed. In the past, evil spirits were roaming around and were captured by the great spirits, imprisoned in a place where positive energy thrives in Annam land, and the feng shui layout of the place of detention is arranged. This was formed by heaven and earth over millions of years, and contains important elements such as Sa Long and Yang acupuncture points, forming a small dragon hole. The dragon whistle is not a blessing but a balancing point of the Yang Long layout, like a lock, combined with the Dharma seal and Fuc Soul talisman of Huyen Tien Tran Vu. Demonic ghost evil spirit bound for thousands of years. With the help of the Tiger King star and the evil formation Gu Ghost Chi Chi art, they moved the talisman and released the 4 evil spirits of Dai Viet legend. Suan Quang, Wood Star, Tien Thursday Sack, 5-colored mouse, Bok Ku, white chicken, Pai Ba Tin, Peepa tree. Legend has it that in Fong Chau, since ancient times, there was a large tree called the Chien Dan tree, over 100 feet tall, with luxuriant branches and leaves, providing shade of up to 1,000 feet. There are often cranes flying to land, so the land there is called Bok Hak land. After thousands of years, the tree withers and rots, so it turns into a goblin, often changing shape, very brave, with superior magic, killing countless people and animals. Goblins today are here and there, changing unpredictably, often capturing and eating human flesh. The people had to set up a temple, and every month, according to the custom, they had to send ghosts of living people to submit to the goblins, so that the people could have peace. People only see the appearance of a white skeleton, and it is very violent and crazy, so it is called Suan Quang. During the reign of King Din, old shaman Van Du Tuong, of noble virtue, had traveled to preach the Dharma to many places, when he came to Bok Hak. Knowing the situation, the old magician then used the hexagram to find out that although this goblin is cruel and cruel, he has a hobby of watching vaudeville shows, that is, entertaining games on bamboo stalks. A type of folk puppetry. Knowing this, the old magician taught the people the art of vaudeville to entertain the god Suan Kwong. Then while he was immersed in entertainment, he tried to find a way to capture it. Bok Hak people sing, beat drums, bang gongs, and dance loudly. Killing animals to sacrifice again, the foul smell of blood wafted far to Suan Kwong's sensitive nose. The goblin saw this and came to see. The old magician set up a formation, read a spell, then used his sword to slash. While in ignorance, Suan Kwong was slashed by the sword's orders, shattering his virtue and cultivating for many years, turning into a resentful soul. He was captured by the old monk, brought to Tam Kok, and was restrained, unable to return to being a demon. The tribute paid to the living no longer exists, and the people live peacefully as before. After coming to Annam with the 3 evil tyrants, Suan Kwong summoned Suan Kwong to take the soul of 10,000 years of evil spirit power and enter it into the Tiger Bone Tin King, becoming stronger and more powerful. Summoned 3 other minions, Tien Thursday Sak, Bok Ku, and Pai Ba. So the 5-colored star mouse passed away from the ghost family after being destroyed by Duk Huin and Ahon. And where did Bok Ku and Pai Ba come from? It is said that during the time when Nduong Vong Tuk Fan destroyed the Van Lang Kingdom and established the Olak Kingdom, he decided to build Ko Loa Citadel. To assist the king, every night the fairies in the sky descended to earth to carry soil to build the citadel. However, the built citadel was constantly harassed by ghosts. They often faked the sound of roosters crowing in the morning to trick the fairies into returning to heaven. No matter how much the citadel was built, it would collapse. Nduong Vong was worried that he could not finish building the citadel, so he set up an altar to pray to hundreds of gods, asking for the citadel's construction to go smoothly. Not long after, an old man who came from nowhere came to the city gate, stroked his white beard and said, "Building a city like this will never be finished." The king knew that the old monk was probably a high-ranking man, so he called him into the palace and respectfully said, "You can rest assured that there will be an envoy named Tan Zhang to assist, then the construction of the citadel will be successful." After saying goodbye, he left. Just as the old man said, the next day from the east gate appeared a Kim Kui, golden turtle, claiming to be Tan Zhang porcelain. The king was so happy that he sent an envoy to find out why the citadel had not been completed until it was built. Ambassador Tan Zhang then replied, "At the foot of that Ju mountain there are graves where the kings of the past were buried. Because when they were alive, the kings loved listening to music, so after they died, the ghosts of the musicians were buried alive with them." Suddenly, while living a peaceful life, he was captured and buried alive, creating resentment in his heart towards you. Over time, those unjust souls of musicians became resentful souls that could not escape. That area also has a white rooster that lives for many years to become a star. At night, it often leads unjust souls to use magic to destroy the city wall. Only by eliminating this evil spirit and freeing the spirits can we build the city. At that time there was an inn in the area. The innkeeper had a daughter and a son-in-law. This strange inn is at the foot of the mountain, but for unknown reasons, many of the guests who pass by there have left but never returned, disappearing for unknown reasons. One day, the king, following the words of envoy Tan Zhang and a few of his elite soldiers, disguised themselves as travelers, went to an inn to ask for a rest. At night, while the moon was blowing and the wind was dim, a wind blew past, a sound like the crackling sound of a pipa. The soft sound seemed to pour into the ears, making everyone feel like they were falling into a dream. Their limbs were weak. Even if he wanted to sit up, he couldn't stand up, like a fish lying on a chopping board. The monster, who was originally living in the guise of a son-in-law, changed its shape to become a Bak-ku. When the king stayed at the inn, he followed the instructions of Tanjong envoy and set up the Kim Kui Howling Soul formation around the inn. Bak-ku, thanks to the sound of the pipa to lull people's souls, seemed certain of victory. He attempted to rush into the room to kill the guest. Immediately, the evil Kim's evil force was projected onto his body. Bak-ku's body was completely burned. Pieces of black smoke, painful moans and cries. Angry white chicken transformed into hundreds of thousands of shapes, and Pai Ba Tin used all kinds of evil magic but still could not solve the formation of Kim Kui Howling Soul formation. The more they tried to solve it, it was like ants shaking trees, grasshoppers kicking the cart. Knowing that he was encountering a saint, as soon as it was dawn, the white rooster turned into a six-legged owl, Pai Ba turned into a tall snake, black snake, and ran far away in the direction of the mountain to hide. Tanjong porcelain turned into a five-colored string that followed and subdued both of those evil husbands and wives. The next day, right at Bak-ku's inn, people dug up a lot of remains and ancient musical instruments buried underground, behind the inn. Burn it to ashes and spread it into the Ma River, then the negative energy will dissipate. Legend has it that Bak Tin Tin had previously practiced evil in a deep, dark cave for many years, along with a jade green stone slab at that Ju mountain. Later, a woodcutter went to the forest to cut wood and entered a deep cave, mistaking it for a precious stone, so he ghostly returned home. Thach Nok's refined soul of cultivation entered the woodcutter's newborn daughter. The little girl grew up to be very beautiful, more talented than others, and talented in playing and singing. People around the area often called her Lady Pai, because she specialized in using a Pai instrument to enchant people's hearts. Heard the melodious sound of the instrument. Feeling crazy, he followed her and soon disappeared. Who would have thought that after cultivating to become a human, he remembered the kindness of the ancients and immediately went to look for the white rooster, and united as husband and wife, unanimously agreeing to kill people and animals, and practice ghost cultivation. Bad luck is a type of luck that can never be avoided. That's why it is said, the destiny of existence is the middle of private ownership, the destiny of destiny is no time of force, fate does not give you what you want, stubbornness is still equal to nothing. Folk legends passed down through thousands of years, seasoned with salt and fish sauce, I don't know how. Human grasslands, embroidered flowers and brocade from poor people, with no strength in their hands, I don't know what to eat today. On Gosti Day, the erection is often damaged. So legends are also a way to represent the eternal voice of cause and effect. Do you think it is painful for us Vietnamese people? Talking about Duc Huyen's group and the strange little girl who had never met a Hon before, in order to capture Tien Thursday Sack, they went into caves and swamps and wasteland, first without a house and later without a mansion. At a deserted temple and tomb, he immediately encountered the evil magic spell of the devil's art, dissolving the seal of Dai Viet's evil spirits. He encountered 3 legendary evil spirits that had not yet regained their souls, when 3 strange men appeared, according to the old man's words. The old Mandarin Trong Kien called the monsters with big bellies and small heads, whose bodies were as if their feet had not yet reached the entrance to their stomachs, as the 3 Teat Du envoys of Annam. All 3 of them, along with the dog Hao Kuyan Shuyan, now suddenly fell from the sky. Another one-eyed old man, although old as if his body was extraordinary, his teachings were noble, holding the sword Dragon Quiet in his hand with immense aura. The light created light that filled the space, pointed the sword at the 3 evil tyrants and said, "Turn around and see the shore. I will give you a way to live." One of the three men wearing a golden scale armor holding a donjiao knife, a small knife with a hook at the bottom of the handle, stepped out, narrowed his eyes, looked at the one-eyed old man and said, "Haha. What is this shape? Has the two-eye clarity now become one eye? It's true that Master Chao Bian has now turned into Dai Viet's dog slaves. What a shame. Please forgive me, we are your juniors and we would like to ask for your permission to take the other eye as well. By the way, let the White Bone sect regain its reputation, haha." Chao Bian stood like a rock and spoke, "Shut up. Evil people like you will sooner or later suffer the same retribution as me. Think again about what you say. It's hard for a person without a head to run. It's hard to understand a sentence without a head. Be careful of what you say. This southern land is not for those crazy people who talk nonsense." Before he finished speaking, he flew straight up high, used his strength, took the blood from the tip of his tongue, creating a path of light to slash down on those three people. Red Blood Broken Bone Sword only saw a trail of blood slashing down from his hand. That old monster named Mok Ton jumped to the side, but suddenly his arm was numb with pain, his arm fell to the side. It turned out that it was just a hidden move to attack the earth. The truth is that the killer move is lying down. From the ground up, not from above. It sounds like it's taking a long time, but in reality it's very fast. That old monster's eyes were blank and he couldn't believe his eyes. A sick old man with only one hand and quick moves. Like that. The slash was as sharp as a razor. He staggered holding his arm that only had the upper part attached, retreating back with blood flowing freely. An old man behind him seemed to have quickly taken out a white powder from his pocket and covered the wound. The white smoke burned, creating a wound that dried and hardened with blood. In front of them, a Hon old Mandarin Trong Kien also refused to sit still. Their morale surged and they rushed to respond. Now in the deep cave, only the deafening sound of weapons clashing against each other could be heard. Duc Huyen stood frozen, just standing there watching them fight. Everyone was in danger, but he could only stand and watch. His heart felt like he was disabled. Suddenly the fire monkey Jiao Long in his body suddenly felt like it wanted to jump. His arm, his head hurt like a hammer, and he immediately fell to the ground. Huyen De, seeing his master like that, suddenly seemed to have the strength to grab his leg with his snout and pull him out of the cave entrance. The two sides fought for half a day. There was no difference between winning and losing. One guy had his arm amputated, and for a time only Truong Fu and Hoa Fu were left. Seeing that Chao Bian had the mighty and powerful sword Dragon Quiet in his hand, it seemed that if he didn't use evil magic, he was afraid it would be difficult to defeat him. 1. Hoa Fu took a gourd made of O Trung black bronze and hung it on his waist. He took a purple-blue talisman from his sleeve. All three men stepped back to keep their distance, biting their hands and drawing blood together to draw on the earth talisman. Lin chanted the incantation and shouted loudly, "You guys forced us, now you're being rude." 3 insect corpses. 3 insect corpses, Bao Bone King has suddenly appeared. Only seeing a wisp of black smoke fly out, forming a huge, long, smoke-shaped poisonous insect flying in the air, then turning into black arrows like rain flying down on the heads of a Hon and Chao Bian. Old Trong Kien was stunned. Blinking his dark eyes, he howled miserably, spitting out fresh blood. Chao Bian quickly threw Kim Long Quiet to the ground, raised his arm and used all his remaining strength to push a Hon to the cave door and shouted loudly, "Run, child, leave it here for me." Only to see a body like 100,000 arrows stuck in the skin. The body is in chaos. Even with high internal strength, it is difficult to control the pain that tears the internal organs. The arms and legs are numb, the corners of the mouth are pouring out streams of black blood. Old Mandarin Trong Kien was now like a lamp about to run out of oil, still whispering with his mouth full of blood to Chao Bian, "You also run. I'll block the way. I'm here. I don't have any strength anymore. I'm ready to go back to my wife, haha." Having finished speaking, he pulled out 2 fire potions, explosives stuffed in bamboo stalks, prepared before entering the cave. He silently followed to decide if he had enough with Tian Thursday sack. Now the mouse is smart. Die. His wish had come true. He didn't want to be attached to the pain and loneliness of the mortal world. He smiled. He pulled out the fire medicine and threw it towards the 3 villains. They knew that the firepower was extremely strong, so they quickly rushed to the side. Inside, there was a blinding flash of lightning and a deafening explosion in one corner of the cave, making heaven and earth tremble. Ahone ran to see Chao Bian still alive and pulled him out. Old Trong Kien laughed loudly, "Ha ha. Hey. 3 evil people have been cultivating so hard for so many years. It's not as good as you, just 1 fire wolf tree, and you guys will be green in the face. Come out and I'll give it to you, a small gift too." Then he turned back to the mouth of the cave and said in tears, "Little Du Quinn. Hick. I'm thankful to have a friend like you. Let's not owe each other anything. See you again in the next life." A second explosion rang out and hit the stone pillar in the middle of the cave, breaking it in half. The cave now seemed to have lost its support, shaking as the earth and rocks flew, the sound of horrifying vibrations. Amitabha Buddha. Ahone, look, this 3-insect corpse is truly very dangerous. The poisonous insect burrows into 36 weak points on the body, then gradually sucks out all the vitality of the subject. In just a short time, I will lose all vitality and turn into AM corpse. AM corpse will spread throughout that person's family, and soon everyone will become a white skeleton. This trick is a lost trick, used by feng shui masters to defeat each other in the past, competing for dragon veins. Later, seeing that he was too cruel, he was gradually eliminated by the noble people. It no longer appears. Now we will find a way to expel it. Chao Bian opened his eyes slightly. His whole body was in unspeakable pain, and saw that his body was soaking in an extremely large terracotta jar. The water in the jar is getting warmer, because countless herbs have fire properties. In front of him was a familiar old Zen master, next to him was little girl Ahone. Old Chao Bian tried his best to say to the other 2, "I'm not dead yet. Is this a place of evil, or where is this?" That monk, with an extraordinary appearance, walked over and said, "Please rest assured and rest, we have many things to talk about here." After speaking, use strength to press on both shoulders, take a needle and insert it into the Kui Kung acupuncture point above the lip. This is the acupuncture point located between the 2 nostrils. On the central acupuncture point, this method is often used to save people in a coma. This acupuncture point is the most painful of the 360 acupuncture points on the human body. If pricked while the person is awake, the pain penetrates to the core. Like a torture. I can only see the surrounding water gradually boiling up, changing from clear white with the scent of herbs, to pure black, with a strong stench, a disgusting fishy stench, making the monks feel uncomfortable. Continuing to hold his breath, Ahone vomited several times. Suddenly, countless saffron-colored worms crawled out from the water jar, like leeches as big toes, their bodies covered in thorns. They crawled on the clay jar, on Chow Bian's head and neck, and crawled into the eye sockets of Chow Bian. His damage. His screams were painful. The monk took out a large porcelain vase containing red water in his hand and placed it next to the clay pot. Immediately, as if he smelled blood, the entire corpse rushed out of the clay pot and into the porcelain vase. The monk closed the lid, stuck 2 golden talismans on it, then asked Ahone to go and put it in the crematorium. A few days later, Chow Bian's health had recovered a bit. He lay on the bed and tried to sit up when he saw the monk walking in, but the old Zen master came closer, sat down next to him and said, "My name is Laqui, this is its Ko-Lu Pagoda, you don't need to get up. High priest, you're not healthy and the poisonous worms have been removed from your body, but the after effects are quite severe. I wonder what will happen in the next few days. Hope you will survive the accident. Amitabha Buddha." Old Chow Bian coughed a few times, then said, "I know that this move was used in the past in the Bat Trigram Du Tin Long formation, but this time it was practiced several levels higher, and once it was used, it took one's life. I know I won't be able to survive. I just hope my daughter will forgive me for my previous mistakes, and then I can close my eyes in peace. I forgave you a long time ago, when I learned that because of your own selfishness, you caused disaster to the Yan'an people. As I later found out, you reformed your ways, took to atone for sins, to create blessings for the villagers." The voice came in from outside the door. It was Ahone. His last name was Chow Hong Lin. Chow Bian's eyes were filled with tears, his arms trembled and he reached out to Ahone. "My daughter, when I entered Tam Kok Cave, I saw the phoenix jade pendant on my neck and I knew it was my daughter. Thank heaven for having the virtue of filial piety to let me see you again. I left happily, ha ha ah." Unexpectedly, at the end of Chow Bian's return, his only wish in life was to reunite with his lost daughter. Even if they were 2 people, they would still be a warm family. Chow Bian went through storms and crime. Not a few. Throwing down a knife to become a Buddha is like that. Remember that time, after the Battle of Dai La, Zen Master Laqui learned that Chow Bian also had a little daughter. La Nuang died because of heartache when she saw her husband. He committed such a great crime that he felt ashamed and threw himself into the river, leaving the little girl behind. Zen Master Laqui, out of kindness, returned to Ko-Lu Pagoda to teach and pass down the Buddhist mind Dharma. Due to his profound spiritual foundation, he soon became the 5th generation of the Vinaya sect. Located in the branch of exorcism, his forte is medicine, spiritual intelligence, military geography, very good at spells. The founder of enlightenment is Great Master Min Kong. After the battle, Du Quinn returned home, saddened because the old Mandarin Trong Kien died without a proper burial place. He only blamed the old man for his cowardice and thin fate. The mountain cave collapsed and buried his body. He was considered human. When you are born and die, you will return to the dust of the world. Staying at home for 1,000 days of happiness, going out on the street for a time of suffering, Du Quinn escaped but lost his old friend Trong Kien, who was determined to take revenge. That day he met his benefactor. "The person who saved me before went to Ko-Lu Pagoda every day to see how the strange old man was doing. Every day, after finishing the housework, he immediately left, not forgetting to bring along some body tonic and personally prepare ghosting for the old man. Knowing that his identity was Chow Bian, after all, he was his uncle, so he devotedly took care of him. Very thoughtful care. Even though old Chao Bian had many people working together to treat him, his health deteriorated more and more each day. All sects in the world usually had two types of healing, inner Dan and outer Dan. Nguai Dan is a medicine that treats the outside of the body, using rare herbs, insects, and all kinds of things to prepare. As for Noi Dan, it uses the power of concentrating energy combined with very hard cultivation of the mind to obtain, just like when the soul loses it, it seems that death is in sight. Noi Dan is practiced from within the host body. Can help treat internal injuries. Taoists often call it Tai Tuc, knowing. That he did not have much longer to live, Chao Bian lay in bed thinking for many nights in a row, and made a bold decision. Ahon was able to eat and drink every day. On the day of giving to his father, he seemed to be resurrected in strange peace. Every day, listening to the chanting, his heart felt relieved of the mistakes he had made, hoping to do something for the people of Annam before he died. Hey kid. Do you know why the Jiao dragon in your family doesn't work? It's because you don't have enough energy to control it. Jiao Long brings bad luck, good fortune, and happiness to those who do not understand. If after a while you don't know how to control it, it will absorb all your remaining energy and fly away. No matter how advanced you are in studying feng shui, if you don't have more internal energy, it will seem like a blunt sword. Come closer, sit in meditation, close your eyes. I will enlighten you. When Duc Huin heard old Uncle Chao Bian say that, it was like he had caught gold in his hand. For a long time, he had been thinking about many ways but could not control Jiao Long on his body. His heart felt like a burden. Now, old master said so. It's so fun. Unconsciously, he did as the teacher said. Closing his eyes, suddenly a strong force gently touched his chest, his mouth opened wide before he could calm down, then his throat seemed to have a cold flow of negative air running down his dantian to condense. So cold that I trembled. My body seemed to freeze, floating in the air, my soul separated from my body, only having time to scream and then lose consciousness. In the darkness I still heard the monk's voice. Uncle. Huin Ni. From now on, you brat will replace me and Sister A Hon. Now we have Jiao Long. Feng Hong hopes that Dai Viet's gods will join forces with Kai Lan and Kim Ke to unite to save the people of Annam. This time, I felt exhausted and a bit exhausted, so I passed on Noi Dan to your kid. Please cherish it and do things to accumulate virtue on my behalf. At the end of his life, Chao Bian seemed to have done little for the world. He closed his eyes when he left. Before, he was just fat covering his heart, and fame was covering his eyes and doing things that would ruin his conscience. Now he only wants a peaceful family. It's not complete, so Chao Bian, famous in the world, seems more pitiful than blameworthy. When I was young, my father didn't love me, my mother didn't pamper me, people wanted to kick me when I saw them, even my children turned a blind eye. True to the saying that there are no bad people, it's just that life forces people to have no choice. In the maze of life, good and evil are difficult to distinguish. Tian Master Taoism is a religion that values the art of preparing foreign medicine. More profound is cultivating internal medicine and using talismans. Each type of talisman contains the meaning of heaven, can control and guide people and living things, and can also drive dragon energy in dragon veins deep under the surface. Earth, all things are called the unity of heaven and man. The transmission of immeasurable heavenly venerable is similar to Amitabha Buddha in Buddhism. To become a famous mystic in the world, in addition to personal qualities, if you are smarter than others, you must also gather fate and heavenly destiny, practice harder than others to achieve the right path. In the past, Hong Chi gathered all the above factors to attain enlightenment and become a first-class true person. 5 of the 7 books of Taoism. Today, Duc Huin's destiny has come. He has memorized all the 7 remnants of Kai Mon like the back of his hand, but does not have enough internal strength to open the Jiao Long in his body. Now Master spreads it to Noi Dan in a moment like a marble. Show the future, change shape and color. The Jiao Long's body has now turned yellow with immense strength. That is the highest magic weapon in Tian Dao Buddhism. After burying Master, after all, he was my benefactor. He had helped me twice but had not yet received any gratitude from me. Duc Huin's heart was also saddened, standing next to the grave, shedding a few tears. Please close your eyes with peace of mind. I will definitely, together with Sister Hong, carry out my uncle's destiny. I will give those evil tyrants an incomplete death, wipe out the evil spirits for the land of Annam, and let the people live in peace. Eternal peace. Ahone stood next to him and smiled contemptuously. It's true that the sky is in chaos. I don't know how to control my own strength. Do you know how powerful those 3 evil spirits are? Your young dragon is just like a worm or a cricket in their hands. Duc Huin looked at Ahone with a dissatisfied expression. His face changed color. His expression was unhappy. What do you say? My feng shui is not bad. Jiao Long can already demonstrate. Plus the power of Feng Hong. Why don't you fight against those evil tyrants? At this time, old Zen Master La Kui stood nearby, looked towards Chao Can Town and Fan Gosto Mountain, which was over 10,000 feet high, and said, "That's right, right now the 2 magic powers are still very inexperienced. Even though we have the spiritual power of beasts, it seems we need to practice more, and we haven't yet met the 4 divine beasts, so it seems this time the evil will be unavoidable. The northern invaders have never stopped attacking dragons before. Moi wanted to take over Jiao Qi. I and other heroes guarded it day and night, thanks to the support of the 4 Dharma weapons, but now they also used military force to rob it, destroy it, melt it, and bring the raw materials back to Tian Tru. Some of them were refined into a huge black bronze pillar called Luongyi Tru to guard the Tram Long Vein. When Ahone and Duc Huin heard about Luongyi Tru, they were very curious. They had never heard of it before, so they were very curious. Urging the Zen Master to tell the story, Zen Master La Kui slowly explained, Luongyi Tru is a black bronze pillar over 100 meters in size. On the body of the pillar are engraved with talismans from ancient times. An evil magician named Ma Vien in the north devised it to suppress countries opposing the heavenly dynasty. If Luongyi Tru coordinates with the Demon Gate Battle Dharma formation, the level of destruction will be 2 levels higher than the 8 trigram star diagram Long Chao's formation presented in the past. If successful, it will control the Tram Long circuit and destroy it. Tian Tu Chi, Dai Viet forever seems to have exhausted its talents and has no place to live. This formation was created to suppress and destroy all seeds of resistance in Jiao Qi, so on the body of Luongyi Tru were engraved the 6 words, Dong Tru Cheat, Jiao Qi Diet, meaning bronze pillar, Jiao Qi there will be no more. Originally, the evil tyrants who summoned the evil spirits wanted to protect them while casting enchantment spells, not allowing anyone to disturb them. That's how it is. After listening, Duc Huin's spirit filled his eyes and he said with hatred, "Then I hope the teacher will teach us more about how to resolve this situation. Now where to start?" Master La Kui used his hand to press the pad, looked towards the north and said, "The first thing is that you must practice more how to skillfully use the spirit weapon on your body." Duc Huin, follow a hone and practice together. Practice with my instructions, hoping that Ta Ao Tien Sin's heroic spirit on high will watch over everyone and help. Kim Kui is about to return to the southern heavens. Amitabha Buddha. The three old tyrants, after the clash at Tam Kok, made quick arrangements and headed to Fan Gosto Mountain. This place has a cave called Ko Sam Nguyen Kim. In the entire southern sky, this place is the only place called the weak point. Foot Dragon. After careful consideration, they decided to create the Demon Gate Formation. So what is the Demon Gate Formation? This battle was initially invented by the Gosto Sun and Black sects. At first, the tombs of the northern kings often arranged agencies, using hidden weapons and poison gas to destroy tomb robbers. Later, evil magicians set up an additional section to suppress evil spirits. Instead of using agencies, they switched to using a less costly and time-consuming method, which is to use the evil method of own soul suppression. That is to use virgin and healthy boys and girls to feed them until they are full, with an anesthetic in the food, then bury half of their body around a large bagua shape, following the yin and yang shape of the 5 elements on one side. Young girls on one side of yin bury half of their bodies with their heads up to the sky, use objects to pry open their mouths and pour mercury into their bodies. After dying suddenly, they become invisible souls of resentment that transform into shields to protect the corpse. France. The Demon Gate Formation Dharma at this time was controlled by magicians such as Tam Evil Bo in coordination with Luong Gi Tru to control the dragon energy acupuncture points to defeat Long Dai Viet. This battle had to gather 9 other small evil towns, so they quickly built 9 small temples around them called Q Dain, including Jiak, Din, Tin, Kong, Chan, Hung, Tuong, Siu, Mon. These 9 palaces are surrounded by guards. If you arbitrarily break into the wrong key point, also known as the Formation Eye, your body will be destroyed and your soul will be scattered. Dragons are inherently the supreme of all things on earth. In the world, dragon veins are like the breath of a sacred dragon. To meet the elements to be considered dragon veins, yin and yang must be in harmony. The 2 sides must have the same shape. On the right is Tan Long, on the left is White Tiger, after that there is Thieu Sun, before there is Chu Sun. It is not just that if you see a continuous winding mountain shape, you can arbitrarily call it dragon vein. It is imperative that the true dragon vein must have flowing water. Is the dragon's blood, so without water the dragon dies. Water also has yin and yang. Moving water is called yang, condensed still water is called yin. Standing on the top of Fan Gosto Mountain, you can see the vast, majestic southern land stretching endlessly. A figure wearing an ash-gray monk's outfit, wearing a large wooden necklace made of demon sword sorrow, wearing a traveling hat, carrying a yellow bag on his back, a delicate face, an extraordinary appearance. Looking down into the ravine. Below, his face exuded anger and resentment. He gritted his teeth and said, "This evil group will stop at nothing to destroy the South." Now they set up the Demon Gate Formation. This 1,000-year-old formation, see its time to end here. At the top of Lin Sun Mountain, a strange man entered the ancient pagoda today. Seeing a hone in front of the door, he said, "Hello, please forgive me for asking. Is this the place where Zen Master Laqui practices?" As he said, he took off his hat and put his hair in a high bun. Has a silver lightning-shaped brooch. As soon as Ahon saw it, he quickly took the stick he was holding in his hand, pointed at the other person and said, "This kid, now he doesn't bother to practice with me, and even pretends to be someone else. His son, Sister Hone, has to give her a beating every day before she accepts it. Before he finished speaking, the stick was thrown with a great force as if it wanted to penetrate the man's body. I just saw him gently holding out an index finger. The stick suddenly stopped in front of him and fell lightly to the ground, like a goose feather. Then calmly said to Ahone, "I have no hatred or resentment towards this lady. Why did you attack me? Perhaps there is some misunderstanding here." Ahone became even more angry. When he heard that, he rushed forward and swung his arm straight at the other person to attack. He just glided like a cloud, instantly neutralizing Ahone's anger, then held out his left hand. Grabbing her shoulder, suddenly there was a flash of wind that paralyzed half of her body. She could no longer move. She thought, "Why is this kid like this today? Usually I press his head and open it. She's like a puppy. Today her movements are as fast as lightning, and she even uses a strange secret move. What's that?" While thinking vaguely, old Zen master Lao Kui heard the sound of walking outside. Seeing what was going on, he asked, "What happened this morning that you are causing trouble, Hon Ni?" Only to see Ahone standing motionless, trying to speak, but unable to utter a word. Seeing that, the man bowed his hand in greeting and said to Lao Kui, "You must be the Zen master Lao Kui that people talk about. Junior would like to greet you." The old Zen master also widened his eyes. Why did he look so much like the kid Duk Huin, like two drops of water, only this person looked more stylish. After talking to the Zen master, he turned to gently hold on Ahone's shoulder. Then he clasped his hands and said, "Please forgive me for doing this to you, because I couldn't help it." "Ha ha ah. Why is it so crowded today, Master Hon Tai? Today I have some bonday and cinnamon rolls for you, a dish you really like to eat." The boy Duk Huin walked in from outside the gate. When he got closer, he was startled. He was speechless when he saw the stranger. His lips trembled. He couldn't speak. He suddenly dropped the item in his hand on the ground. The two looked at each other. The uninvited man's eyes suddenly filled with tears. Duk Huin unconsciously put his hand on his neck and pulled out a jade pendant. The other person also had one like that on his neck. It's you. It's Duk Wai. Mom must be very happy to see you back. Father, we are reunited." It seemed that after many days of disappearance, Duk Wai now appeared, with an extraordinary appearance. The two of them now shook hands in celebration and didn't leave each other for half a day. Ahone and the Zen master were also happy and touched with brotherly love after many days of separation. Duk Huin said to Duk Wai, "Can you tell me everything?" Duk Wai looked at his brother and said, "The story is still very long. I will tell it to you little by little. Now we can go inside the house and continue talking." The story is that Duk Wai was kidnapped by Lu Tan that year and brought back to the north. After Lu Bo performed the heavenly venerable permutation method, he changed his family name to 8 characters. Was sent to a temple, practiced as a Buddhist monk. In the north, when it comes to mysticism, there are many sects of profound virtue and magic. There are 4 great religions, Phomyanthuok, divided into 2 directions, right and wrong, always fighting each other endlessly. The sect that Duk Wai inherited is called Then Tu, a dharma that seems to be one and the same as the Heavenly Master sect. This sect uses spells to mobilize the power of the 5 elements, mountains, rivers, and land, and feng shui. In particular, there is a secret technique to suppress ghosts called Loi Fap, which means it is very good at using thunder and lightning. After his master surrendered to the heavens, Duk Wai was recommended by his fellow sects to the position of head of the Then Tu sect, because he had many merits in building the Then Tu sect, becoming one of the 4 sects and famous. People in the northern land, like Duk Wai who escaped, felt that they were fortunate and had a weak fate, so they refused, wanting to return to their homeland to serve the people of Annam. Because many nights in my dreams, I saw Hong Chi's father saying, "Dear the blood of the Vietnamese people, even if they go to heaven or the sea, they are still the people of Annam. As men, please try your best to help your nation become strong and prosperous. The country may be lost, but the nation is eternal. Please go back and join my brother Duk Huynh to calm the world." The doctor took off the bag on his shoulder and put it on the table. He took off the cloth. Inside, an object crawled slowly, emitting a dazzling light, making everyone surprised. Ahon's eyes widened and he stuttered, "Master, what kind of animal is this? I have never seen it in my life. Under its belly there are 4 eyes, and on its back there are 4 golden letters." "How do you know?" Old Zen Master La Kui said, "Amitabha Buddha. This is the legendary Kui Tu Tuesday. I have never seen it in my entire life. Just heard what the patriarch said. In the year of the rooster, a Kui appeared. The world often said that when Kui Tu Nan appeared, the country of the south was the will of the gods to preach to the people of the south. Kui Tu Nan in the year Din Dao appears on the turtle Gosti with 2 words, Tien Da. In the year of Kai Hoi there is 1 word, Jade. In the year at Tai there are 4 words, Di Han Feo Tsong. In the year of Ken No there are 4 words, Vong Di Bat Van. And this time it's, Quoc Tho and Vin." Don La Kui turned to Duk Wai and asked, "I also heard that it must be someone who has a destiny of heaven and earth. One is a king or the other is someone who has a predestined relationship with it to find it. Now how can I find it?" The doctor then opened one side of his robe, revealing a yellow turtle, Kim Ka, deeply engraved on the left chest. Then he said to the master, "Before returning here, I was warned by my father, Dream. One morning I woke up and saw that Kui Tu Nan had been lying in the room for some time, with the shape of Kim Kui deeply engraved on his body. Knowing that this was the fate of heaven, I immediately returned to the south to find out the news. That means finding the person that my father told me to look for. Now I have met a noble person and asked for his guidance." La Kui was moved when he heard about Hong Chi, his eyes filled with pride, and he said to the 3 people, "My life has been everywhere, through many heroic and bloody battles. The person I admire and respect the most is Ta Ao Tien Sin. I am so fortunate to have stood side by side with him in the Battle of Dai La Citadel. If we had not sacrificed ourselves for society that year, we would not be where we are today. Because he used all his vitality and virtue without caring about life or death, he decided to undo the seal of the 8 trigram star Du Dragon. So he lost a lot of his life. Today, I also know that our southern country will also have this day. The trees want to be quiet, but the wind will not stop. I have been in seclusion for many years because I have been thinking about finding a way to deal with the evil methods of foreign invaders. Back. Now I will pass it on to you to hold, which will be helpful in breaking the Demon Gate Battle Dharma formation. It is ghostly named Xa Loi Tu Fong Seal. Legend has it that Kui Tu Nan, also known as the Four-Eyed Turtle, appeared for the first time in the northern Midlands of Dai Viet. It's not that the turtle actually has 4 eyes, but the lower part of its plastron is divided into 4 small rings like eyes. From a distance, it looks like eyes. On the turtle's Gosti, sometimes there are ancient scripts, like for example, there are fish species that live for a long time on their scales or have lines with Chinese characters, so people call them 4-eyed turtles, rarer ones with 6 eyes. 2 brothers, Duk Wai and Duk Huynh, returned home to visit their mother. Needless to say, how happy their whole family was. After many years of separation and silence, now we meet again. Just a few days later, the two brothers asked permission from Mrs. Ka, lied about going to the mountains and water together, and then set off to Lin Sun Mountain to meet Zen Master Lakui. These past few days, Huinda for some reason kept following behind Duk Huai. Duk Huin felt that it was more strange than usual, even its gait was different, its fur changed color from black to red. If it were an outsider it's hard to notice those changes. When he asked Duk Huai about that strange thing, he only saw his brother shaking his head and smiling without saying a word. Today is the 15th day of the 7th lunar month. The full moon illuminates the top of Fan Gosto Mountain. 4 people and 1 dog, from the top looking down at Koh San Cave, the blue-purple moonlight, along with the wind blowing across the desolate mountainside, created long-lasting sounds like a plaintive call to the soul. Below that, 3 evil tyrants are standing in a row. In front of them is an altar table. In the middle is a huge black bronze pillar, more than 10 meters long, with Soul Guiding Sutras engraved on it. The Soul Guiding Sutra is a type of sutra that summons the soul that cannot escape and gathers at the place of execution. Around the pillar are sharpened bamboo sticks, on which are placed the heads of 6 animals. On the top of Luongyi Tru, there are 9 rows of ropes made of red thread, with long green and black talismans attached to the 9 Q Dain divided into a circle below. Duk Huin frowned and said, "Why don't we take action in the morning? Instead we watch when the moon is high and the wind is dim at night like this." Zen Master Lakui explained, "That's because at night is the time when the yin energy is abundant, and they chose the right time to act. The rat hour is the highest hour of the day where the most yin energy is gathered. Look, not only did they set up the Demon Gates formation, they prepared to summon evil spirits and then used the Bat Sat Department suppression method. This is a formation using 8 pieces of human skin carved on it. Kan, Kam, Ken, Chan, Tun, Lai, Kan, Doi. Pasted in 8 directions creates a huge killing lump, so it is called Bat Sat Cuc. Duk Huai, his eyes filled with blood, said, "I really want to trap others. As far as I know the situation of Bat Sat Cuc, anyone who doesn't know the heart of the evil method and arbitrarily goes in, I'm afraid they will get in, no out. This Bat Sat department will create the illusion of ghost to guide the way, cover the eyes and lead the soul astray, forever into nothingness." Zen Master Lakui stroked his beard, looked at Duk Huai and said, "That's right. Not only will he die, but he will also be broken to pieces and unable to escape, not even able to go to hell, but also to enter the realm of reincarnation. If not, the soul will not be scattered in the human world forever." Then turned to Ahone, "Little girl, the time has come, let's prepare, just follow the plan." Ahone immediately sat down and laid out the formation, took out from his pocket a number of small poles like bamboo sticks with sharp claws about 2 inches long and placed them on the ground to form a small circle, a total of 12 poles corresponding to metal, wood, water, and water. Fire, earth are the inner circle. Kan, Kam, Kan, Chan, Tun, Lai, Kan, Doi are on the outer circle. This hexagram in Hoa Gosti Dike Lai. Take red thread and tie it to the ends of the stakes to form a circle. On top is attached a small bell. Light up 4 soul guide incense sticks representing 4 people. This method, combined with the soul talisman, will protect everyone's souls. If the ghostie is not damaged by the Bat Sat Cuc technique, it will not be guided by the ghost. But know the way back. At this time, Duk Huin was naive and shyly asked the Zen master, "So when performing magic, there are 4 sacred beasts, here there are only Jiao Long, Kimka, Feng Hong, then the unicorn is missing, how can we do it?" Can you cast a summoning spell, teacher? Duc Huai patted Duc Huin's shoulder and pointed at Huinda. You've been with Kai Unicorn for the past few years, don't you know? Really? Duc Huin turned to look at Huinda with suspicious eyes and said, how can the unicorn be a dog, its son? I thought the legend of the unicorn was a mighty species like a tiger and leopard. Turns out the human legend was wrong. So for a long time people have been eating unicorn meat? Duc Huai smiled and said, I don't know, but there are many types of dogs. In the past, Hao Tian Kuyan was present in the fairy world, cultivating virtue and reaching the realm of immortality, so he often appeared in the human world to help people, and then people. In the past, people embroidered flowers and woven brocade, adding to their shape, making it a little distorted. Unicorn is the common name for four-legged animals such as lions, horses, and dogs that change their shape. That's when we know how to use the dharma of revealing skin to reveal its appearance. I've been helping him these past few days, so now you look. Only now did Duc Huin see that on its back was a Vajra Fook ghost talisman made of buffalo leather. Buffalo leather has always been an object to engrave demonic energy. Old Zen Master La Kui took it out and put it on it. On that buffalo leather talisman, placing the Kui Tu Nan on top, a red swirling force like fire was suddenly created around Huinda's four legs. Its body turned from black to a bright red. Its eyesight was no longer normal but like two candles burning brightly. Transforms itself to become much larger, transforming into the legendary Hao Kuyan Shuyan in an instant. Zen Master La Kui saw Duc Huin standing there in surprise, and said loudly, what are we waiting for? They have already started to attack. You guys are just doing the magic. Having finished speaking, the three of them pressed the seals on their hands. Zen Master La Kui stuck a necromancy talisman on each person's back. The three of them joined together to speak loudly. The sound echoed throughout the mountains and hills. The voice echoed into the blue sky. God, the five emperors, the patriarchs, the spirit of the Vietnamese land, the spirit beasts of Annam. Now we see that the land of Phuong Nam is suffering a lot. Please, dear people, please help us more. Strength, destroy the world. Immediately, clouds and wind came roaring from somewhere, clouds like blood coming back to cover the sky. The moonlight was nowhere to be seen, only the space was red as blood. Wind blew in the sky like fierce waves rushing in. Blood clouds rarely appear. Once they appear, the world will be filled with rage and immersed in a pool of blood. The spirit beast on their bodies now transformed, as if merging into their bodies, feeling the raging power. All three people now had the power of the spirit beast, their eyes filled with spirit as they looked down at the demon formation. The blood of hatred rushes to the brain. Down there, the three evil tyrants read the order to summon the evil spirit, saw the Bao Kot King appear in the cave entrance, jumped on top of Luong Gi Tru and used his feet to kick the pillar to the ground. Just heard a loud noise like thunder in my ears. The sky and earth shook violently. The pillar began to slowly sink to the ground below. The ground split into 8 pieces like orange segments. Red fire sprayed below. Dai Viet Dragon's blood has flowed out. A painful groan echoed from the ground, signaling that the demon gate formation had begun. From above, a figure holding a tich staff rushed down and hit Bao Kot. Bao Kot was concentrating his strength to attack Luong Gi Tru, jumped down to the side to avoid Zen Master La Kui's attack. Humph. A loud voice, you little mortals dare to offend me, Hoa Fu, the leader of the three uncles, saw Zen Master La Kui and immediately laughed contemptuously, trembling his 2 goatee whiskers in front of his mouth and said, ha ha ah. Is the hour already here? We've been waiting for you and Nam people for a long time. Don't try to escape now. The hole to bury you brats is already available. By the way, bury Dragon Jiao Qi here. Tam Evil Ba looked up and saw 4 figures rushing down, speaking and waving a talisman in the air. He only heard a cold voice coming from deep inside the cave, "Leave us." Immediately, a sound like the sound of a guitar came from somewhere far away, and the virgin corpses buried under the feet began to move and rise up. Inside the cave, behind a layer of mist that gradually dissipated, 2 silhouettes appeared. They were Bok Ko Tin wearing a white fur coat, and next to her was a young woman in red clothes with pale skin, taking small steps. The fingers that pluck strange and tragic music are the Piba essence. In an instant, layers of corpses stood up and turned into corpses. Now their hands began to grow long, knife-like nails, and their molars became sharp. Seeing 4 people, they immediately rushed forward. Zen Master La Kui quickly said, "It's AM corpse, be careful not to let them touch you. Let's spread out in 3 directions to act. Bao Kot, just let me." The doctor, holding the string of demon sword of sorrow in his hand, quickly walked with Hao Kuyan Shuyan towards the couple Bok Ki and Pai Ba Tin. Although the Yin corpses were only skin and bones, they were like moths rushing to form a circle. Surrounding both of them in the middle, continuously slapping Hao Kuyan Shuyan, Hao Kuyan Shuyan used his negative force, dog roar only roared, and immediately the other Yin corpses flew away and crashed into the cliff. Both of them dodged and launched attacks. Attacking AM Core, I only knew they were hit. I thought the bones were broken in half. I heard the bones crack and then stood up and continued to charge. If I saw this like this, I wouldn't be able to beat them until morning. Was able to eliminate it. La Kui suddenly realized a weakness and immediately performed the technique, used his hand to capture a 9 gathering seal, and shouted loudly, "Sun and Moon Fong Loi Tournament. Strange battle, Vietnamese in the lightning light." I saw a green light flying out of my barrier in the shape of a lightning bolt, aiming right at Pai Pa. In the blink of an eye, all the strings were broken, the Yin corpses were as if turned to stone, rooted to the spot, and Pai Pa screamed in pain. Lay down and convulsed, turning into a stream of green gas. After it melted away, only a piece of jade stone remained. The white cock caught a glimpse of what had happened so quickly, and then in the blink of an eye, Lady Pai Ba was under the magic power of the Taoist. This child was hit, destroying thousands of years of practice. He frantically shouted, "I will live and die with you. We will be one soul. Perform." A white feather in White Cock's hand flew quickly and stuck into his shoulder. Ha! Duk Wai staggered, his right leg bent down, his right hand supported the ground, his body trembled. All Souls 1 is a move that summons all souls that cannot escape, enters him, creating a 10,000 times increase in power. The intention is to use the dark evil Vu Ku to eliminate souls. If hit, it seems that the soul will be alive. The power of the person hit by the move will forever belong to him. Duk Wai was suddenly careless and could not react in time. He was immediately hit by the magic move, only to see a stream of darkness surrounding his body, his eyes turned into a deep black color. Duk Huin immediately took out some sticky rice from his hand, soaked it in warm water, put it in Duk Wai's mouth, then took out 6 forbidden rooster bones from his hand and placed 2 small fish bones in it. Into the Chiu Han talisman behind Duk Wai's back. Immediately a thick stream of black blood flowed out on both sides of the 7 holes. Sticky rice soaked in warm water is a simple way to neutralize evil spirits. Why use chicken bones and fish bones? Glutinous rice inherently has very high exorcism properties, but there is a better way to neutralize evil spirits and is easy to use in every situation. In this case, using fish bones and rooster bones, because these two things have yang properties, they are effective immediately. Duc Huyen turned around and said to Ahone, "That girl dares to use bad tricks. I'm worried about you, leave this chicken for me to pluck." Having finished speaking, he stood up and looked towards Bok Ku. His right arm was raised in front of his chest, his left hand supported the bottom to form a perpendicular position, holding the Jiao Long seal over the sea. The Jiao Long coiled around his shining right arm. Duc Huyen rushed in front of Bok Ku and shouted loudly, "Tai Sun orders to block. Duong in this world, evil god of death. Infinite heavenly venerable, obey the law." A semicircular yellow light flew to Bok Ku's star. No matter how fast and prepared he was to prepare his defense, the killer move was faster than him. Bok Ku's whole body felt cold, his eyes widened and his mouth opened wide when he saw a large hole under his body, negative energy pouring out from there. When stopped, he collapsed like a dry tree, instantly turning into a white carcass. On the other side, Zen Master Laqui fought with Bao Kat. It seemed that he was no match for the evil spirit. He was continuously hit by attacks, blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. Duc Huyen, after resting for a while, also stood up. Gathered to the side at every inch. Tam Evil Boss now stood in three high corners looking down, saying meaningfully, "Now you guys are like fish swimming through the net, now there is no way to hide." Tam Trung Ti. Tam Trung Ti. Vicious Bone King. Level, obeys the law. Ha ha. A cloud of black smoke from the Othong gourd flew out in a dark circle above the mountain top. If you burn yourself into the fire, you can't save it. Can you save a fish at the bottom of the pot? Hearing the word Tam Trung Ti, every inch of my body suddenly felt cold. But having prepared in advance, the old Zen Master Laqui laughed loudly. Whoever falls through the net will know right away. There is a saying that poison can cure poison. The corpses began to rush down like a black rain. Hao Kuyan Shuyan immediately looked up. His eyes were red with the fire of heavenly fire shooting out. The roar echoed in the space. The three evils' ears were ringing. Their hands were shaking. Pressed, dropped the earth spirit talisman. Suddenly all the remaining corpses lost their direction. The part burned by fire flew back and stabbed into its commandant, only to hear a scream rang out. The evil tyrant struggled in the air. Hopeless, from inside the body, the corpses cut into dense holes, blood flowed out in streams. His mouth was open and he died without closing his eyes. King Bao Kat, now roaring with his shoulders forming a giant, aiming at Luong Gi Tru and stepping forward. Now that pillar is like a small stick. Bao Kat presses it down with his hand. The sacred dragon roar of the Vietnamese land, the earth and sky of the south are like he fell down. The ground around him burst into large lines. Everyone's hair stood on end, their scalps were numb, blood suddenly spewed out from their mouths. Their chests felt like they were about to explode. Zen Master Laqui used his hand to help each person stand up, firmly grasped each person's shoulder and said, "Now is the end. Please follow my instructions, otherwise there will be no time left." I am truly happy to be the one standing shoulder to shoulder with Taeo Mr. Sin. Now with the future talents of Dai Viet, I will not die today, also satisfied, haha. After hearing it, I found it very strange, but time was too short to say more. Everyone stood around, forming a circle around the Zen master, using their hands to form mudras. Zen Master La Kui propped his staff on the ground, put his hands down and closed his eyes, reciting the mantra. I saw a dazzling light suddenly emitting from my body, Amitabha Buddha. Huin Tien Tran Vu, please obey me, eliminate violent bones. The sealed relics. A halo curled all the way inside. I only saw a white whirlpool, a dazzling light in the night flying straight up into the sky. The four southern divine beasts, flying from below to above, spread out into the four directions. Jiao Long, Kai Lan, Golden Turtle, and Phoenix roared loudly, tearing through the dark space, creating four sources of colorful light that spread on Kui Tu's back. Longden, on its back, carried a relic of golden light. From above it shot down on Bao Kot's head. The power was immense, the sound was like heaven breaking, flattening a large area. The light of the Gosti had returned according to its original rules. The sun gradually rose, only to see the figure of a person covered in injuries, that was Duk Wai standing alone in the battlefield full of sand and soil. Sad and melancholy eyes, tears suddenly flowed into streams, everyone disappeared without a trace. Only a few remnants of the Luongyi pillar were crushed into pieces and lying scattered about. In the middle is the image of Kui Tu Nan lying there, turning into a white marble slab. Now Duk Wai understands that there is no war without loss and pain, everything has its price, but the trade-off is worth it, everything for the eternal safety of the Annam people without regret. Give up all your life. Zen Master La Kui destroyed his own life and became Ex-Loi, along with Duk Huin, Ahon, and Hao Kuyan Shuyan. They devoted all their life and sacrificed wholeheartedly to save the people of Phuong Nam. How sad. Duk Wai turned his back and a thunderstorm from the sky struck the top of Fan Gosto Mountain, burying the rock and burying the cave, leaving no ghosts to let the world know of their silent sacrifice. Die Viet people, so there are countless sacrifices and losses. I only hope that future generations will always remember that will is the strongest weapon, helping us to be undefeated against all national enemies, no matter how strong they are. Because we always have ghosts inside us. Lak Hong's blood, the blood of the dragon and the fairy,